In a dark and scary place called the Juvenile Reformatory, a storm is brewing over the massive stone walls. Moving through the crowded yard, the inmates whisper about some fresh rumors spreading around the facility. While grinning, a scarred guy tells his friends that a total loser just challenged the boss's strongest soldier. Looking excited, the criminal explains that life means nothing inside these walls where people die every single day. Under the full moon, a loud crowd starts cheering and screaming for a brutal fight to finally begin. Pushing through the mob, several guys try to get a better view of the chaos happening right in front of them. Suddenly, the scarred inmate stops laughing as he sees something that leaves him completely stunned and silent. Grabbing the black-haired boy by his head, a massive attacker tries to crush him against the hard ground. Covered in red stains, a heavy fist swings through the air while others scream for the violence to just stop. Refusing to let go, the young fighter continues to punch his enemy even though two men try to pull him back. Receiving several powerful blows to the face, the big bully can no longer defend himself from the strikes. Breathing heavily, the main character looks like a total monster as he ignores the pain from his own injuries. Even after taking a beating, the large opponent tries to lock the kid in a desperate grip from behind. Glaring with pure rage, the hero grinds his teeth and prepares to deliver one final move to end the struggle. Standing over his fallen enemies, the lone survivor looks around the yard ready to take on anyone else. Looking at the yard, we see several prisoners on the floor while everyone else just watches in total silence. One of the guys looks completely terrified while sweat runs down his face because he can't believe what he saw. Standing over his opponent, the main character shows everyone that he actually won this insane battle. Looking at the loser on the ground, we can see how badly he got beaten up during the fight. People around him start wondering if this guy is even human because of how strong he seems to be. Recalling the fight, we see a powerful kick landing right on the enemy, making him fly back instantly. Acting like a monster, he keeps hitting everyone in his way without showing a single drop of mercy. Showing a scary expression, the young man looks like a vicious dog ready to bite anyone who gets close. Suddenly, a bright searchlight turns on and points directly at the center of the yard. Standing in the light, the fighter stays calm while the other inmates keep their distance out of fear. Thinking about his reputation, he hears them calling him a beast, but he knows the truth is much deeper. Walking through the beam of light, he realizes that these people have no idea what he really went through. Heading towards the metal gate, he remembers a place that was much worse than any prison cell. Reaching out with his bandaged hand, he grabs the cold bars while thinking about his past life. Opening the heavy door, he concludes that his previous existence was just a total mess and nothing more. Everything is quiet in the school hallway as the sunlight hits the floor through the large windows. Suddenly, a student appears shaking like a leaf while standing in the middle of the corridor. Looking terrified, the glasses guy opens a door because he needs to find a place to hide right now. Scanning the storage room full of sports equipment, the boy hopes that his stalker will never find this spot. Quickly entering the dark space, he shuts the door behind him to stay out of sight from the scary person. Even after closing the entrance, his legs keep trembling and he can barely stand up straight from all the fear. Gritting his teeth, the young man tries to control his breathing so no sound escapes his mouth. Crouching on the floor, he realizes that his life changed for the worse since that monster started chasing him. Slowly, a pair of shoes walks through the hallway while the sound of steps echoes against the walls. Hearing his own name being called, the poor guy bites his hand to avoid screaming out loud in terror. Walking calmly outside the shadow of the bully, searches for his prey while laughing at the situation. Peeking through the small gap under the door, the student waits for the danger to finally pass away. Desperately praying for his safety, he wonders if the person is already gone or still waiting outside. Tears fall down his face when he hears a noise very close and his heart starts beating way too fast. Finally, a voice says that he was found and the boy looks up, realizing that there is no escape anymore. Looking down at the ground, the student realizes things are about to get really bad. Staring with wide eyes, the poor kid understands he needs to escape right now. Suddenly, a scary shadow appears behind him while whispering that he finally caught his prey. Sweating from head to toe, the teenager feels like he is facing something worse than a nightmare. Crashing down onto the floor, the protagonist gets hit by a powerful strike from his enemy. Standing over him, the bully suggests closing his eyes to make the pain disappear faster. With a wicked smile, the attacker promises to get it right on the very first try. Biting his lip, the young man tries to hold back his tears while enduring the abuse. Grabbing his hair, the monster explains what is actually more terrifying than the underworld. Dragging the victim across the cold concrete, he enjoys watching others suffer for his own pleasure. Walking away, the tall guy complains about his broken weapon and ignores the person on the surface. Leaving a long dark mark behind. The scene shows how the weak have a hard time surviving. Frustrated by the offenses, the people start a protest demanding harder punishments for young criminals. Inside the court, the judge explains that serious crimes by kids only lead to 20 years of prison. Addressing the public, a man says they changed the law but youths still go to special schools instead. In this world, laws are weak, so crimes among teenagers keep rising because power is the only thing that matters there. Cruel bullies treat classmates like toys while recording that suffering just to have some fun during the day. Standing on the edge of a high building, a lonely girl realizes that resisting the strong is totally impossible now. Looking down from above, only pure sadness is left after she decides to escape her painful nightmare forever. Walking through the main gate, two students seem happy while enjoying nice weather after classes are over. Nearby, a tall and scary guy stays quiet, but his presence makes everyone feel like something bad might happen soon. Deep inside a dark alleyway, three jerks corner a poor student who looks terrified of what they are about to do. Mocking the helpless kid, one bully hits a face while asking why he doesn't call an older brother for help. Laughing loudly, the group mentions that the sibling is locked up for doing something very bad in the past. Taking all the cash, they claim it is okay to rob him since he is related to a dangerous criminal anyway. Gritting teeth, the boy tries to defend family, but those words only make the situation much worse now. Suddenly, a heavy fist lands right on the jaw and sends the poor kid flying back with a lot of force. Jumping on him together, the group starts a beatdown because these jerks want to teach a lesson he won't forget. Somewhere else, a different teen walks home with a sad face while the clothes are covered in dirt and marks. Adjusting the glasses, the young man feels relieved because he managed to survive a difficult day in this hell. Walking through the alleyway, the young student finds a lonely dog standing by a box. Gently petting the animal, he realizes they both have many painful marks on their skin. Suddenly, a loud shout starts nearby and the protagonist stops, feeling very nervous. Trembling with fear, the teenager asks the strangers to leave the poor guy alone. Pressed against the floor, a helpless victim begs for help while being mistreated. Squinting his eyes, the boy notices the uniform belongs to the school located next door. Approaching with a smirk, the red-haired leader calls him by the name Senior Amamori. Putting an arm around his neck, the tall guy acts like they are actually close friends. Surrounded by three hostile enemies, the student can only stutter while looking down. Demanding money for food, the group forces the protagonist to show them his wallet. Looking at the few coins inside, the bully gets annoyed and says a dog would have more. Aggressively grabbing his clothes, the mean student orders him to bring breakfast. Nodding his head, the boy agrees to the demand while the group walks away laughing. Standing alone in silence, the glasses kid feels completely powerless and sad. Hurting on the ground, the other victim groans and cries because of the painful day. Looking back with worry, the boy with glasses tries to talk to the tall bully standing behind him. Sweating a lot, he asks the mean guy if he could please just let the other student go for now. Showing a very confused face, the aggressive teen acts like he didn't even hear that crazy request. He explains that the kid's brother is a criminal, so the whole family has to pay for his sins. Getting way too close, the blonde guy warns him not to push his luck even if they were being polite. With a creepy smile, he asks if the student would dare say those same words to the legendary senior Kanemoto. Kanemoto is the ruthless boss who rules over the entire high school like a total monster. Being from a rich family, he just likes to destroy people's lives whenever he feels a little bored. Everyone is terrified because you either lose your mind or end up totally broken after meeting him. Holding a lit candle, the insane leader looks down at his victim while enjoying the chaos he caused. Shouting at the glasses kid, the bully tells him to run away before he looks pathetic too. Taking a step away, the scary student starts to leave while leaving a trail of fear behind him. Feeling incredibly guilty, the boy whispers that he really wants to help but he just isn't strong enough. Laying on the cold ground, the poor victim can't even move after taking such a heavy beating. Telling him to just give up since nobody is coming, the group keeps laughing at the poor guy's fate. Looking down at the ground, the student feels really bad and apologizes for being so pathetic. Tears run down his face while he continues to say sorry about how his life is going. Walking through the dark streets, the boy thinks about how he has no friends and is completely alone. Standing at the top of the stairs, he looks like he has no energy left to keep moving forward. Inside a messy house, we see two adults sitting on the floor and things look very tense. Holding a bottle, the angry man demands that the woman gives him the cash from her payday. Looking scared, the lady explains that the money is needed for monthly expenses and their child. Slamming the table, the aggressive guy tells her to shut her mouth right now. Slowly the door begins to open as someone watches the fight from the hallway. Shouting loudly, the man starts being mean because he wants the wealth for himself. Standing outside the room, the student covers his ears to block out the sounds of the struggle. Crying quietly, he blames his own weakness for not being able to help his mother in that moment. Pointing his finger, the rude guy calls them animals and says he is the one supporting everyone. Distressing thoughts fill the boy's mind as the insults from that night keep repeating over and over. At school, things are even worse since a group of bullies is forcing him to do gross things on the floor. Forced to the floor, the student endures a humiliating demand while a bully mocks his very existence. Dark shadows loom over a sweet memory of his mother, and this makes the situation even more painful for the small guy. Burning with rage, the teenager refuses to let anyone talk bad about his family while showing a scary expression. Charging forward with all his strength, the student tries to intervene before the scene gets even more dangerous. A huge man holds a glass bottle over the terrified woman while her son screams for the brute to stop. The giant looks back with a face full of anger as if he is about to lose control on the child. Without any mercy, the attacker swings the heavy object and strikes the young person right on his head. Sharp shards fly everywhere and the poor youth feels a sting as he gets hurt by the sudden impact. Falling to the floor, the protagonist loses balance after taking such a heavy blow from the older man. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the bully threatens the kid while the mother watches in total horror. Spotting a sharp tool on the desk, the injured boy realizes he needs a way to defend his life. Reaching toward the edge of the table, the main character grabs a utility knife to end the violence. Shaking with intense fear, the glasses of the student glow while he prepares for a final stand. That massive enemy prepares another punch, but the brave teen is now ready to fight back with the blade. Jumping at the opponent, the kid yells for him to quit as he uses the weapon to protect his parent. Feeling extremely furious, the man stares down at his family with veins popping out of his forehead. On the floor, the mother begs for mercy while the son holds a small knife to defend her from the monster. Standing firm, the boy tells his mom that he will protect her no matter what happens next in this room. Disrespectfully, the father spits on the ground to show how much he despises his own child for acting brave. Laughing at the situation, the brute begins to take off his belt to deliver a harsh punishment to the kid. Shouting loudly, the villain mocks the boy for being a coward at school but trying to act like a hero at home. Slowly, the heavy footsteps of the aggressor approach the two victims as he prepares to strike them down. Crying out in despair, the woman tries to stop the violence before things get even worse for her son. Calling him a worthless failure, the man dares the student to actually try something with that tiny blade. Raising his arm high, the father swings the belt with all his strength to teach the teenager a painful lesson. Trembling with fear, the young man watches the weapon coming toward him while sweat drips down his face. Tightening his grip on the sharp tool, the protagonist prepares to do the unthinkable to survive the assault. Behind those glasses, a dark look appears in his eyes because he has finally reached his absolute limit. Lunging forward with a desperate scream, the boy strikes his target to end the cycle of pain once and for all. Suddenly, everything turns red as a massive impact happens and the room is filled with a bright flash of light. A dark and stormy night begins as heavy rain starts to pour down from the gray clouds. Outside the building, the water splashes hard against the cold ground while a strange shadow appears inside. Standing near the window is a massive man who seems to be involved in a very tense situation. Suddenly, some red liquid spatters across the room and marks the skin of the person standing there. Falling quickly to the wooden floor, a small utility knife makes a sharp sound as it hits the ground. Sitting on the floor with a look of pure terror, the young boy is covered in marks and can barely move. Staring ahead with wide eyes behind his glasses, the student wonders why things had to end up this way. Holding the poor woman tightly, the giant man stands over her while she suffers from a painful wound. Screaming in total rage, the big guy complains that the little brat actually dared to attack him. Crying out in despair, the teenager explains that his only goal was to keep his mother safe from harm. Roaring with a scary face, the villain calls the kid a coward and dares him to try that move once more. Walking slowly toward the helpless boy, the man prepares to finish what they started in that dark room. Clenching his fists with a lot of power, the attacker gets ready to show no mercy to the trembling student. Watching everything with a single eye filled with fear, the kid can only beg for his life to be spared. Kneeling on the floor, the mother pleads for forgiveness and asks the man to leave her son alone. The angry bald man looks completely furious while screaming for someone to release him immediately. Swinging his arm with force, he hits the poor lady and shouts that she is just getting in his way. Taking the blow directly, the woman falls while her son screams for his mother in total desperation. Crying from a distance, the glasses boy begs the attacker to stop this madness and have some mercy. Stopping his movements for a second, the big man looks confused after hearing the child speak up like that. Standing up straight, the villain promises to teach the boy a lesson because he wants to discipline him today. Lying on the floor, the injured mother tells her son to escape and leave her behind for his safety. Swallowing hard, the protagonist feels his heart racing while sweat runs down his neck from the intense fear. Gulping and shaking, the teenager claims he will protect his mom even though he is clearly terrified of the situation. Ignoring her own pain, the woman tells the boy not to worry about her and urges him to move fast. Smashing the table near some glass bottles, the angry man creates a loud noise that scares everyone in the room. Screaming with all her remaining strength, the lady tells her child to hurry and run away right now. Trembling on the ground, the student prepares to move because he realizes he cannot stay there any longer. Running through the door, the kid cries and says he is sorry for leaving his mother alone in that place. Watching the boy escape, the bald man gets even angrier and yells that the brat is going to pay for this. Inside a messy room, a big man yells at a woman while blaming her for everything wrong. Looking very hurt and crying, the poor lady calls out for someone named Jen. With her last bit of strength, she begs the boy to run away and save himself. Walking through the dark streets, the rain starts to fall heavily on the lonely city. Regretting his choice, the young man feels terrible because he could not protect his own mother. Sitting on the cold ground, he apologizes to her while some students notice him getting wet. Seeing the guy in that state, the schoolgirls start to feel sorry for him. One of the girls stops walking and stares down at the miserable boy sitting there. Feeling ashamed, the protagonist just wants to be left alone, so people stop looking at his face. Suddenly a shadow covers him and he looks up, totally surprised by what is happening. With a kind gesture, the pretty girl offers her umbrella so he can stay dry. Smiling warmly, she tells him to hurry home or else he might get sick from the cold. Holding the handle tightly, the boy can hardly believe that a stranger would be so nice. Without waiting for a thank you, the two students walk away into the rainy mist. Remembering her brother's words, the girl explains that helping others is the right thing to do. Holding his umbrella while rain falls, the man wonders where he should go because he has no home to return to. Suddenly a small dog appears and starts rubbing against his leg to get some attention. Shocked by the sudden touch, the protagonist looks down with wide eyes to see what is happening. Standing in the middle of the street, the animal barks loudly at the tired fellow. Seeing the creature up close, he wonders if this is the same pet from his past memories. Reaching out to pet the pup, he explains that he has no food or even a house for them to stay. After a brief moment, the furry friend turns around and starts running away while barking again. Screaming for the animal to wait, the glasses guy starts chasing it through the heavy storm. Tall buildings loom over the city while the rain pours down on the empty streets. Crossing the road as fast as possible, the male follows his companion through the dark night. Stopping to catch his breath, he leans over while the little dog watches him closely. Sweat and rain mix on his face as the poor guy feels completely exhausted from the run. Looking around, he realizes they arrived at a new spot while their shadows stretch on the ground. With a surprised expression, the traveler asks if the pup brought him to this specific place on purpose. Leaning his umbrella against the wall, he decides to stay since there is nowhere else left for him to go. Huddled in a dark corner, the man decides to stay there for the night while the rain falls outside. Morning light hits the city buildings as a new day begins near the subway entrance. A large dog growls and barks at a much smaller animal that seems to be in trouble. Looking through his glasses, the antagonist smiles while spotting someone he knows. Surrounded by two girls, the tall guy greets his supposed friend with a mocking grin. The poor student gets scared and jumps because he did not expect to see them there. One of the girls looks confused and asks if they are really friends with such a loser. With a cold expression, the leader confirms their friendship while staring down at the victim. That tall teen claims that life would be boring without his favorite target to mess with. While the small dog tries to be brave, the boy stays on the ground feeling totally helpless. Looking down with a serious face, the bully demands that the student says something. After a light slap, the mean kid tells the guy to act like a dog and start barking. Gritting his teeth in pure frustration, the victim tries to hold back his anger and tears. The mood shifts quickly when the leader tells him to stop being annoying before things get worse. Trembling with fear, the boy struggles to find his words while the pressure keeps building up. Gripping the hair of the poor student, the bully shows no mercy while the victim suffers in pain. Angrily, the tall guy demands that the nerd starts barking like a dog to humiliate him even more. Suddenly, a small white dog jumps out and bites the attacker's hand to defend the weak boy. Shocked by the sudden pain, the bully backs away while holding his wounded arm as it starts to hurt. Watching the scene with wide eyes, the glasses guy wonders if the little animal really saved him. Feeling humiliated, the muscular villain grits his teeth while promising to make everyone pay. Calling his own beast, the boss tells his huge pit bull named Maru to attack the small dog. Facing each other, the two animals prepare for a fight that looks totally unfair for the little one. Growling loudly, the massive hound lunges forward with its mouth open to finish the job quickly. Crashing into each other, the pets roll on the floor while a cloud of dust hides the struggle. Biting down hard, the bigger predator dominates the match and shows its raw power against the pet. Whimpering in pain, the small white dog lies defeated while the monster continues the assault. Grinning like a maniac, the bully enjoys the sight and shows he has no heart for the weak. Crying and covering his face, the student begs for the violence to end because he can't take it. Forcing the nerd to look, the cruel man tells him to watch carefully as everything is destroyed. Cruelly, the big dog attacks the smaller one while someone says that the weak can never protect anything. Begging for mercy, the boy with glasses cries because the poor animal is about to lose its life. Simply laughing, the bully enjoys the scene while showing a very mean smile on his face. Grabbing him by the hair, the tall guy forces his victim to watch the final moments of the pet. Looking into his eyes, the aggressor warns the student to never try to defy his authority again. Viciously, the predator bites down and the situation for the little dog becomes completely hopeless. Darkness covers the room while the violence continues and things get much worse for everyone there. Screaming in pure agony, the teenager can only watch as his only friend is taken away forever. Shaking his head, the cruel leader mocks the boy who is currently covered in tears and sadness. Pulling even harder on the hair, the bully makes sure the nerd feels every bit of the physical pain. Looking down with total disgust, the tall man treats the person on the floor like he is just trash. Suddenly, the jerk throws the poor student right toward the remains of the animal on the ground. Laughing at the misery, the bully says he will forgive the kid only if he eats what is left. Starting a countdown until 5, the villain threatens to do something worse if the boy refuses to obey. Kneeling in total despair, the main character feels alone since he thought he finally found a true friend. Looking down at the hurt animal, the boy feels like his world is falling apart because everything he loves gets taken away. Remembering the pet, he thinks about how it gave him courage and made him want to protect someone else for once. Alone once more, he wonders if he is even allowed to feel happy or if warmth is something he can never have. Staring at his trembling fist, the kid asks if he is just fated to lose every single thing that matters to him. Suddenly, a tall guy in a floral shirt shows up and starts staring at him with a very mean expression. Standing behind him, the bully asks what the weak student thinks he is doing and looks ready to cause more trouble. With a scary look on his face, the jerk asks if the boy is actually planning to defy him this time. Mocking him, the bully says that even touching him will send the kid to jail for a very long time. Grinning creepily, the villain mentions a place where someone like him would get taken out almost immediately. Whispering in his ear, the tall guy promises to hunt him down even if he tries to escape or give up. Putting an arm around him, the mean student talks about selling the boy's mother to a bad place to make more money. Looking directly at him, the jerk suggests that the kid should just be called a dog from now on. While the bully laughs at his family, the boy starts to feel a strange power and his eyes begin to glow bright. Showing a wide and nasty smile, the villain continues to laugh while enjoying the pain he is causing his victim. Leaning in close, the bully sarcastically says the name Kanemoto makes him shake with fake fear because he is so mean. Starting right now, our main guy looks like he is about to lose his mind because he is totally fed up. Trembling with pure rage, the glasses kid suddenly snaps and starts throwing hands at the bully like crazy. Getting closer to the target, the protagonist warns that some words should never be spoken out loud. Surprised by the sudden attack, the jerk asks why he is being hit while trying to defend himself from the blows. Swearing to get even, the nerdy student keeps going and refuses to let the other guy catch his breath. Without holding anything back, the fighter gets even closer and uses his teeth to cause some serious damage. Tearing into his opponent with total desperation, the boy makes sure the bully will not forget this day. Screaming in total agony, the loser holds his face while realizing that he is in a lot of trouble now. Watching the scene, the girls nearby are completely terrified and start calling for someone to help them. Rolling on the ground, the injured guy cries for his mom because the pain is just way too much for him. Standing over his fallen enemy, the main character looks down with a cold expression after winning the fight. Covered in mess, the protagonist shows a scary smile that proves he really does not care about the consequences. Transitioning to a different place, we see a big building under a clear blue sky where things get serious. Hitting the gavel, the judge announces that the session is officially starting to decide the boy's fate. Facing the court, the 15-year-old boy named Jen is accused of attacking his classmate named Hiromi. The protagonist gets arrested as people in the courtroom watch his entire world crumble apart. Crying to the police, the young boy explains the bullying, but they refuse to believe a single word he says. Even his father took money and locked his mother away so she could not help him escape this mess. Inside the room, the officer just mocks the poor kid while he sits there feeling completely abandoned and alone. Standing alone, the judge sentences the student to 5 years in a juvenile center for an assault charge. Leaving one nightmare behind, the boy is led away by guards to face a much scarier and darker place. Walking through the giant metal doors, he realizes this new home is going to be a total disaster for him. Hiding his gaze, the teen knows only the strongest people will survive this ruthless environment. With a loud bang, the doors close and seal him inside an endless hell where all hope goes to die. Outside the barbed wire fences, the rain falls hard as the prison remains dark and cold during the night. Heavy chains rattle against the floor while he drags his feet slowly across the hard concrete ground. Suddenly, an angry guard shouts for him to move faster and gives him a rough shove forward. Thinking about his bully who got away for free, the boy feels a deep anger growing inside his heart. Heading toward the examination room, the new inmate prepares for the harsh reality of prison life. Shouting orders, the guards tell everyone to strip down and stand up quickly for the first inspection. Inside a gloomy room, several men are taking off their clothes while getting ready for a harsh processing. Looking down, a guard asks for the name, so the young man whispers it while feeling very nervous. Frustrated by the mumbles, the official shouts for him to speak louder since the boy seems too scared. With a very cold expression, the officer shows that he has no patience for any kind of weakness today. Smirking meanly, the man mentions the crime of biting off a nose, and the protagonist stays quiet in shame. Handing over a small slip, the guard says his identity is now number 8725. Hearing that his old life is gone, the poor guy starts to sweat and tear up because things are getting real. Walking in a single line, the group of prisoners is forced to move quickly while being watched by guards. Clanking with every step, the boy walks through the hallway in chains and looks completely broken inside. Wearing a mask, a doctor tells him to raise his arms and spin around to check his body for secrets. Lifting his shackled hands high, the young man follows every order while feeling the cold metal on his skin. Turning around slowly, he shows his back to the staff while they write down notes about his condition. Slapping the clipboard onto the table, the examiner prepares the final part of the uncomfortable checkup. Putting on latex gloves, the man orders the teen to remove his last piece of clothing for an inspection. Crying out in total despair, the protagonist realizes that his dignity is being taken away in this place. Entering the facility, the young man sees huge scary guys everywhere, which makes him feel totally out of place. During the body search, the guards check every part of his body to ensure he is not hiding any forbidden items. Suddenly, the officers start treating him roughly and use physical force to show who is in charge of this place. Feeling his pride vanish, the boy starts to cry because his personal dignity is being crushed by the treatment. Now officially a prisoner named Amamori Gen, he receives a 5-year sentence for assault and feels totally broken. Sunlight shines through the barred windows of the building, yet it offers no comfort to the new inmates inside. All the prisoners sit on benches in the large hall while guards stand around to keep everything under control. A guard shouts loudly that the director has finally arrived and orders every single person to stand up now. Walking into the room, the boss clears his throat to get everyone's attention before starting his little speech. With a big smile, the man says this place is not a strict prison, so they should all try to feel comfortable. He mentions that the inmates can rely on him for anything and notes that boys and girls are kept separate. Thinking to himself, the protagonist wonders if this facility is actually decent while they wait for their rooms. The man in the suit keeps smiling while talking about proper education so they can serve society in the future. Eventually, a guard tells the newcomer to follow him and leads the guy toward his new living quarters. Inside the cell, some massive scary men look at the boy with mean grins as they prepare to welcome the newbie. The big bald guy laughs while mocking the smaller prisoner since he thinks the comment is quite funny. Nearby inmates notice the new arrival and call him a perfect punching bag, which makes the atmosphere very tense. Carrying his few belongings in a small basin, the Four Eyes walks down the hallway looking quite nervous. Behind him, a guard wears a creepy smile while watching every move the quiet kid makes in the corridor. Pointing toward a cell, the officer mentions that he prepared a very special room just for the new prisoner. Looming ahead, the cold iron bars show exactly where the young man will be spending his next few days. Stopping right in front of the gate, the guard announces that they have finally reached the destination. Looking around with a worried face, the student waits for the door to open so he can enter his cell. Giving him a rough shove, the guard tells him to enjoy his new life inside the reformatory walls. Stepping inside, the protagonist sees a group of tough guys already waiting for him in the crowded room. One of the scary inmates sits on his bed and asks the newbie what his name is with a mean grin. Surrounded by the group, the poor guy stutters his name is Amamori while trembling from all the pressure. Suddenly, a heavy hand strikes the boy across the face, causing his glasses to fly off from the impact. Screaming in anger, the bully says he asked for a prisoner number instead of a stupid name. With blood dripping from his mouth, the boy looks totally lost and hurt on his very first day inside. Standing in the hallway, several bullies announce that the welcoming ritual for the new guy is finally about to begin. Trembling with fear, the glasses boy looks completely terrified while facing the aggressive crowd surrounding him. Heavy sounds echo through the room as the thugs start beating the poor kid without showing any mercy at all. Laying on the cold floor, the victim covers his head while the leader tells him to never forget this painful moment. Pointing a finger, the boss claims ownership over the boy and demands absolute obedience to every single command. Gritting his teeth in silence, the protagonist tries his best to hold back his anger and just survive the day. Noticing the boy expression, one bully asks if there is a problem while leaning down to mock his suffering. Deciding to stop the beating, the leader says that this much physical pain should be enough for the first lesson. Grabbing the kid by his hair, the mean guy prepares to explain exactly how things work inside this prison block. Showing a pyramid of power, the narrator explains the hierarchy where the new guy sits at the very bottom as a commoner. Laughing loudly, the boss mentions that every single supply must go to the room leader before anyone else touches it. Looking at his meager belongings, the boy realizes that defying anyone ranked above him is a very dangerous mistake. Getting uncomfortably close, the bully whispers a threat that things will get much worse if he ever dares to resist. Walking away to find a bathroom, the tall man orders the victim to act as a human step stool for his convenience. Forcing himself onto all fours, the boy feels a deep sense of humiliation while being treated like an actual object. Inside the bathroom, the toilets are limited, so the inmates use the sink, and this guy needs a boost to reach up. Standing right on the back of another student, the bully uses him as a ladder to do his business in the corner. He claims this is a special duty for commoners while keeping his feet firmly planted on the poor guy. With a nasty grin, the tall man begins his task and acts like the person beneath him is just an object. Looking totally broken, the victim with glasses feels something gross hitting him and his face is full of pain. Gritting his teeth, the boy tries to stay still even though the humiliation is becoming way too much to handle. Suddenly, the tall inmate gets knocked away from the sink and falls back while making a loud noise. Covered in filth, the angry guy stands up and screams that he is going to end whoever just touched him. A massive group of prisoners holding wooden sticks surrounds the scene and the tension in the room explodes. Trapped on the ground, the student thinks of his mother because he is terrified of not surviving this day. Walking into the middle of the mess, a new student appears and stands in front of the fallen boy to stop them. The thugs ask what this stranger is doing and wonder if he is actually trying to protect the weak kid. With a gentle expression, the newcomer asks the group to stop and promises to teach the brat a lesson himself. Furious at the interruption, the bully points his weapon and yells that this situation is none of his business. Reaching into his pocket, the mysterious man tells them to calm down while trying to find a way to fix the conflict. Discussing the reasons for the arrival of the newcomer, the one in glasses whispers for mercy. Looking stressed, the big guy mentions that things will get ugly if the kid ends up dying in this place. Walking away, the leader agrees with the point and leaves the area while the others watch the scene. Angrily, a blonde bully shouts that the glasses guy has a very slick mouth for someone so weak. Pointing his finger, the boss says he will leave the new kid with Tamiya but warns him about the risks. Standing in the middle of the crowded cell, the inmates stare as the poor boy remains on the cold ground. Crouching down, the helpful prisoner reaches out to offer a small tube of medicine to the fallen teen. Handing over the cream, the young man tells the victim to wipe himself so his wounds can heal faster. Looking up with confusion, the hurt boy wonders why this stranger is being so kind to him right now. Sitting on the bed, the ally tells him to endure everything because otherwise he might not survive this. Offering his support, the glasses guy says he will lend his strength if the kid truly wants to live. Looking at the wall, they see a fixed schedule that goes from 6:30 in the morning until 10 at night. Explaining the routine, the mentor says they split into groups to clean the laundry area and the hallways. Hearing a loud noise, the main character turns his head when the metal gates finally begin to open. Entering the room, the guard announces that it is free time and tells everyone not to cause any trouble. Shadows of inmates run past the bars while a man watches the chaos unfolding in the distance. Some prisoners talk about the upcoming events and hope that the next big fight happens during their free time. Walking through the hallway, a guy tells the newcomer to keep his eyes open and watch what happens next. Looking at the layout shows that the place is divided into 4 main blocks with a big yard in the center. Adjusting his glasses, the man explains that this specific area is where the true nature of the prison is revealed. Standing near the fence, a dark-haired boy looks out at the rowdy crowd gathered under the gloomy sky. Facing his opponent, a muscular guy shouts that he will definitely crush his rival today in front of everyone. Cracking his knuckles with a wicked smile, the giant looks ready to beat anyone who gets in his way. Showing no fear, the main character dares the bully to try and take him on if he really thinks he is tough. Before the brute can finish his sentence, a sudden punch lands on his face and sends him stumbling back. Total chaos breaks out in the yard as several inmates jump into the brawl while screaming at everyone. Clinging to the wire fence, the other prisoners cheer for the violence and demand that someone gets taken down. Staring in complete disbelief, the boy with glasses cannot believe the amount of madness happening right now. Looking around for help, he wonders why nobody is stepping in to stop this crazy fight from getting worse. Standing just a few feet away, the guards simply smoke their cigarettes while ignoring the mess behind them. Talking to the newcomer, the man with glasses explains that a reformatory and a prison are basically the same thing. Showing the facility map, he mentions the 4 districts and how everything like the cafeteria is shared by everyone. Seeing a fight break out, the narrator explains that in this place fists are the only things that actually make the rules. Looking confused, the younger prisoner asks what he means while trying to understand the harsh reality of his new home. Throwing a punch, the blonde guy proves that physical strength is what decides a person's status among the inmates. Dominating the area, a strong fighter can even take over a district while the guards just watch and let it happen. Landing another hit, the speaker says guards like to relax so they ignore the fighting as long as no one actually dies. Walking away, the authorities simply look the other way while someone lies defeated on the cold ground. Staring ahead, the glasses guy confirms that this is exactly how things work inside these dangerous walls. Cheering behind the fence, the other inmates place bets and yell for the fighters to finish the job quickly. Moving fast, the skilled fighter handles 4 opponents at once and makes them look completely pathetic. Grabbing his target, the main fighter prepares to end the duel while everyone watches the intense action. Grinning wildly, the beaten man looks terrifying, but he is about to face a much stronger force. Raising his arm high, the dark-haired warrior prepares a massive strike to finally put his opponent down for good. Crashing down with power, the final blow connects as the brutal battle finally reaches its end. The blonde fighter tries to grab the main character, but he misses completely because the protagonist is way too fast. Without wasting any time, the shirtless warrior catches the arm and sends his opponent straight to the ground. A massive strike is launched with such power that it looks like a heavy hammer hitting the air. Flying through the sky, the first attacker hits the fence while the hero looks for his next target. Standing alone among the fallen bodies, a new rival with bandaged hands prepares himself to fight. Staring at the kid in front of him, the blonde man feels a cold sweat and wonders if his enemy is actually a monster. Tightening his grip, the new challenger gets ready for one final desperate attack to save his pride. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the man rushes forward hoping to land at least one solid blow. Moving like a shadow, the star of the show prepares to end this battle once and for all with a single move. Landing a perfect hit to the jaw, the dark-haired boy sends the last enemy flying into the air. Crashing onto the floor, the bandaged brawler is totally defeated and can no longer stand up. Standing victorious under the light, the champion breathes heavily while looking at the mess he made. Grabbing his clothes from the dusty ground, the winner decides that he has had enough for today. Walking through the crowd of shocked students, the fighter puts his shirt over his shoulder. Raising their fists, the spectators scream the name Kojo since they are impressed by his insane strength. Looking completely shocked, the young man with glasses thinks the scene he just saw was totally amazing. Staring at the muscular back of the prisoner walking away, he thinks that the guy does not even seem like a human. Showing only a cold profile, the mysterious fighter moves past everyone without saying a single word to the crowd. Lying down in his cell, the protagonist wishes he had even a tiny fraction of that crazy power and talent. Realizing how weak he is, the boy stares into the darkness while thinking about how cruel his current reality feels. Curled up on a tiny bed, the nerd tries to sleep while the weight of his situation makes him feel very small. When the next day finally arrives, the morning light hits the old prison building as another long day begins. Walking into the busy cafeteria, the inmates gather to eat their breakfast while chatting about the latest events. While eating his meal, the protagonist asks why no one gets punished even after such a crazy and violent fight. His companion explains that an unspoken rule exists where rank is decided by whoever wins the brutal battles. Hearing this news, the boy wonders if that means anyone is allowed to challenge the top dogs for their position. Smiling at the question, the friend says it is totally pointless to try unless you are actually super strong. Because those powerful monsters do not care who the opponent is and will simply crush anyone in their way. Feeling a bit nervous, the nerd keeps eating his food while processing how dangerous this place really can be. The smart inmate says he gets the feeling because guys like them have no idea how to defend themselves or fight. The veteran explains that staying quiet is the only way to survive while mentioning that a strong backer also helps. Suddenly a loud voice echoes through the cafeteria ordering everyone to gather around right now. A massive shadow looms over the prisoners because the legendary boss of the North District has finally arrived. Panicked, the cellmate tells the protagonist to stand up fast so he doesn't end up making the giant angry. One of the inmates tries to act friendly by asking the big guy what brings him to this part of the prison today. Without saying a single word, the beast walks right past the suck-up while heading straight toward his target. Every heavy step he takes on the floor makes the atmosphere feel even more suffocating for the nervous boy. Stopping right in front of the kid, the monster looks down and asks if he is indeed the one named Amamori Gen. Trembling with pure fear, the four-eyed student looks up and confirms his identity while sweating buckets. Suddenly a massive hand reaches out and grabs the poor guy by the shirt collar to pull him closer. The scary giant introduces himself as Kanemoto Retsu while staring deeply into the protagonist's soul. He reveals that he is actually the older brother of the bully whose nose got bitten off in that previous fight. This beast explains that he was the one who arranged the transfer just so he could personally handle the situation. Loudly, the leader announces to the whole room that this kid belongs to him and threatens anyone who dares to interfere. With a swift movement, the powerful man slams the student to the ground to show everyone exactly who is in charge. A creepy guy watches from the shadows while drooling because he found a new target. Meanwhile, another man asks if his friend is okay and suggests heading to the infirmary for help. A worker cleans the bathhouse while thinking he is finally alone in this quiet place. He looks around the empty room and hopes that this area is safe from any trouble. Suddenly a loud bang echoes as someone kicks the door open to interrupt his peace. That huge bald man appears with a scary smile and asks if he is the new guy around here. Standing over the poor worker, the giant says he looks like a fresh prize to play with today. While the victim trembles, the bully tells him not to be scared because they will have some fun. The worker screams for him to stop, but the massive man keeps pushing him against the wall. Cold water begins to spray from the shower head while the tension in the room grows. Standing under the rain, the terrifying guy says this atmosphere is perfect for what comes next. He looks extremely happy while the water hits his face and he enjoys the helpless situation. Pushing even closer, the brute licks the worker and tells him to stop being so stiff. The bully pins his target down and says they should just relax and enjoy the moment together. Trapped and alone, the worker looks totally desperate as he realizes there is no way to escape. A huge bald man grabs the head of a terrified prisoner while the water falls around them in the shower. He squeezes the poor guy's face with a lot of force and it looks like he is about to crush him. While grinning, the muscular giant says that the boy is much more intense than he originally expected. The bully starts laughing and says he actually likes the kid because of how much spirit he has. Suddenly another man with glasses appears and grabs the giant's arm to tell him to stop right now. He asks if the bully is trying to cause trouble again and reminds him about what the big boss said. The man warns that even a small scratch on the boy will cause a massive problem for everyone there. With a frustrated look on his face, the bald man finally lets go of his victim and turns away. Laughing it off, the giant claims they were just teasing the kid and meant no real harm by it. The muscular guy then smiles and suggests that the man with glasses could take the boy's place instead. He gives a final warning saying that protecting the kid might lead to serious trouble in the future. As the bully walks away, the man with glasses watches him closely and stays alert for any more moves. Still on the ground, the scared boy asks if his savior is okay and worries about the dangerous giant. While helping him up, the man explains that a powerful guy named Retsu is currently acting as his shield. Walking through the prison hallway, the boy complains that cleaning the bathhouse has become a real pain. Running quickly through the hallway, we see someone rushing toward a group of people. Surrounding the poor student, a bunch of mean guys look ready to start a big fight. Staring in terror, the boy with glasses wonders why these bullies are targeting him. Suddenly a heavy fist connects with his face and sends everything flying away. Falling to the cold floor, the victim gets kicked while the thugs shout insults. Interrupting the beating, a female doctor arrives and asks what they are doing. Smiling nervously, the main bully claims they were just teaching the kid a lesson. Looking serious, the lady warns them to stop before they get into real trouble. Agreeing quickly, the group decides to leave and let the medic handle the mess. Walking away, one thug looks back and says the nerd got lucky this time. Behind the closed door of the infirmary, the atmosphere finally becomes quiet. Preparing the treatment, the nurse tells the wounded youth that it might sting. Carefully dabbing the wound, she uses a cloth to clean up his bruised skin. Softly speaking, the woman encourages him to tell her if things get worse later. Laying his head down, the patient insists he is okay despite the pain he feels. Showing a lot of surprise, the girl looks quite impressed while staring at the scene in front of her. Wearing glasses, the male remarks that the other person has more courage than he first thought. Inside the dark prison, the moonlight shines through the small bars of a high window. Sitting alone, the worried person realizes that a friend has not returned from cleaning the bathhouse yet. He starts to fear that the creepy guy might have done something bad to that companion. Rushing to the bars, the captive screams for an officer to come and help him. As the loud noise continues, another cellmate wakes up with a very annoyed expression on his face. Ignoring everything else, the youth continues to bang on the door while begging for someone to listen. Suddenly, the room leader stands up and tells him to be quiet because of the late hour. Looking up with fear, the young boy addresses the chief while trembling on the floor. Grabbing the superior, he explains that the buddy is missing and needs urgent help from the guards. Reacting with anger, the bully swings an arm to knock the desperate prisoner away. Stunned by the blow, the poor fellow is told to just shut up and wait for the morning. Gritting teeth, a boss complains that he was having a nice sleep before being disturbed. Clenching a fist on the ground, the victim feels helpless as he stays trapped in the cell. Looking devastated, the boy with glasses stares ahead while wondering what happened to his friend Masaki. Walking through the prison corridors, a huge group of inmates gathers together to witness the commotion. Pushing through the dense crowd, some guys demand space because they want to see the situation for themselves. Observing the gloomy faces of the other prisoners, the protagonist feels a heavy atmosphere in the hallway. Widening his eyes in complete shock, the student cannot believe the terrible scene unfolding right before him. Carrying a badly injured person on a stretcher, the guards yell for everyone to move so they can pass quickly. Pointing toward a dark corner, one inmate calls out to his buddy and tells him to check out what just happened. Inside the messy cell, everyone realizes that the previous occupant was treated very poorly by the criminals. Standing there with a sinister grin, a massive bald man mocks the situation while asking if the victim survived. Trembling with pure rage, the hero clenches his fist so hard because he can no longer contain his anger. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the teenager asks the giant if he was the one responsible for this mess. Laughing at the reaction, the brute admits he enjoyed the show but claims he is not finished yet. Leaning in with a creepy expression, the leader says that he actually wants to play with the glasses guy now. Grabbing the poor boy by the arm, the bully prepares to drag him away while the others just watch and joke. Struggling to break free, the student is held tightly by the attacker, who warns him that there is no escape today. Screaming loudly, the student with glasses holds onto his enemy as if his whole life depends on it right now. Suddenly, the poor Four Eyes gets beaten up by a huge inmate who wonders why this kid is even trying to fight back. Refusing to let go, the weak boy bites the muscular arm while the scene gets messy from the intense struggle. Trying to peel the kid off, the big bully grabs him by the neck as the fight becomes even more chaotic. Looking totally enraged, the bald giant shouts that he will finish the little guy for getting in his way. Intervening out of nowhere, a mysterious tall man stops the giant's arm with ease while showing no emotion. Staring in disbelief, the victim recognizes the newcomer and wonders why this powerful person is here. With a cold gaze, the dark-haired figure simply says he wants to shower and tells the bullies to move. Sweating from fear, the bald inmate recognizes the hero and wonders what that monster is doing in this area. Deciding it is better to leave, the big guy turns around since he knows he cannot win against this opponent. Walking away, the protagonist complains about how dirty the bathhouse looks because he hates being in gross spots. Grumbling under his breath, the massive prisoner feels annoyed for having his fun ruined by such a scary man. Showing his petty side, the giant kicks the weak boy one last time before finally leaving the shower room. Threatening that this situation is not over, the bully walks away while the poor kid stays down on the ground. Standing near the showers, the glasses guy watches his savior while water starts running in the background. The water flows down the drain as the shower continues to run in the quiet room. Watching the strong man shower, the boy wonders who he really is and how he became so scary. Deeply reflecting, the young man wishes he had the power to protect those he cares about most. Turning around, the fighter tells him to leave since he already finished his business in the area. Suddenly remembering something important, the student shouts out the name of his friend Masaki. Walking through the cold prison hallway, the sounds of footsteps echo against the metal bars. Entering the cell, he finds his companion lying on the bed after a very rough situation. Covered in bruises, the injured friend apologizes because he thinks he is only causing trouble. Sitting in silence, the glasses boy asks himself how he can finally obtain enough strength to fight. Opening his eyes slowly, the hurt man notices that his worried friend is sitting right there. Trying to stay positive, he says that the doctors treated his wounds so everything will be okay. Gritting his teeth, the teenager starts to sob while blaming himself for all the bad things. Reaching out to hold his hand, the mentor tells him to stop crying because being safe is what matters. Looking down with tears, the kid wonders why his companion would go to such extremes for his sake. Taking a deep breath, the exhausted man tries to rest while his body slowly recovers from the pain. A man lies injured on the ground while clutching a small photo with his bloody hands. Looking up at the protagonist, he mentions how much the boy reminds him of his own little brother. Showing a picture, he explains that his sibling was a genius student who suffered through a lot of bullying. After the younger one finally snapped and ended a bully, the older brother decided to take the blame for the crime. He smiles while hoping his sibling is out there somewhere living a perfectly normal and happy life. The protagonist is shocked because he recognizes the brother as the same kid currently being tormented at the gate. When asked if he knows the boy, the main character gives a hesitant answer while looking quite conflicted. The injured man desperately asks for news about his sibling and wonders if he is doing okay these days. Putting on a fake smile, the hero lies and says the kid seemed happy while hanging out with his many friends. Relief washes over the man as he realizes his sacrifice was worth it because his family is safe. Standing up in anger, the boy says he will report the bully Nagao to the guards, but the man grabs his arm. Confused by the sudden stop, the protagonist asks why they should not just tell the authorities what happened. Placing a finger over his lips, the older man tells him to stay quiet so nobody else hears them. Leaning in close, he whispers that this reformatory is hiding a dark and very dangerous secret from everyone. A close look at his eye reveals the true terror behind the mystery that is about to change everything. Whispering quietly, the two cellmates talk about the mysterious secret of the place while staying alert. Suddenly, a loud bang hits the metal door and interrupts their private conversation. Behind the bars, a new face appears and catches their attention immediately. With a creepy smile, the visitor makes a nasty joke about what they were doing in the corner. Quickly standing up, the larger boy shouts back because he finds the comment very offensive and rude. While trembling with anger, the chubby kid looks ready to fight, but his friend remains completely silent. In a calm voice, the glasses guy warns the bully to shut up or else Nagao will hear about this behavior. Just hearing that specific name makes the mean student look terrified as he stops talking. As he walks away, the jerk says he needs a break and decides to leave them alone for now. Facing his partner, the friend asks how he stays so relaxed and if he really plans to snitch. Turning his head, the main character explains that hiding your true identity is the only way to survive here. Using every possible advantage is necessary to stay ahead of the others in this dangerous school. Since he is curious, the buddy asks if this situation is related to the secret from before. Before ending the night, the protagonist suggests visiting the infirmary tomorrow and goes to sleep. Inside the dark shadows, two glowing eyes observe everything while the cell finally becomes quiet. Under the dark and cloudy night sky, the moon hides while everything remains silent and cold. Resting in his bed, the young man hears some loud coughing and wonders what is happening nearby. Sitting up with a worried look, the boy hopes that his friend is feeling okay and not suffering too much. Looking at the injured friend who always talked about enduring things quietly, the kid feels a lot of pity. Laying back down, the protagonist wonders if staying quiet is truly the best way to keep himself safe here. Wishing he could be powerful, the student remembers a mysterious person who was incredibly strong. Even the scariest guys were afraid of that man who seemed to be the most dangerous fighter in this place. Recalling how that fighter defeated 4 enemies at once, the teenager feels amazed by such massive strength. Throwing a punch into the air, the glasses guy tries to imitate those moves while staying under his blankets. Panting heavily as he strikes the empty space, the boy imagines himself winning a real fight for once. Stopping his movements, the weak student realizes that he has no talent and feels very discouraged right now. Turning to his side, the lonely boy asks himself how he can survive in such a cruel and violent environment. Outside, the rain falls heavily on the barbed wire fences, making the whole facility look even more like a prison. Walking through the dark corridor, two friends support each other while moving slowly toward their destination. Helping his tired companion, the main character apologizes for the late hour, but the other one says it is fine. Walking through the dark hallway, Dr. Kanda and her companion get surprised because everyone was supposed to be sleeping now. Suddenly, a group of guards appears in the corridor led by a man wearing a brown suit and looking very serious. The leader stops to ask what the new guy and the doctor are doing out of their rooms at this late hour. Quickly, Dr. Kanda explains that Tamiya is not feeling well, so they are moving him to the infirmary right away. Looking closely at them, the man in charge wonders if something bad happened during the night. Trying to stay calm, the student says that an old wound just reopened and it is truly nothing to worry about. Hearing the explanation, the suit guy accepts the story and says everything is fine for now. With a weird smile on his face, the man tells the boy to take good care of his health while walking away. Once they are alone, the glasses kid asks why his friend did not mention the name of the person who attacked him. Tamiya warns that trusting people in this place is impossible because everyone could be a dangerous enemy. Leaning in to whisper, he reveals that some people are making illegal stuff inside the building to sell it elsewhere. Shocked by the news, the young man says that this is a huge crime, but his partner tells him to stay quiet for now. While looking down, the man explains that they will use this secret to swap for their freedom later on. Grabbing him by the shoulder, Tamiya makes sure that his friend promises to never tell a single soul about this plan. As the trio walks away, a pair of glowing eyes watches them from the darkness and waits for the right moment to strike. Inside the quiet infirmary, the atmosphere feels heavy while everyone waits for something to happen. Cleaning the deep marks on the arm, the doctor tells the patient to stay strong during the painful process. Suddenly, the door swings open as 2 serious guards barge into the room and surprise everyone inside. Shouting the name Tamiya Masaki, the lead officer explains that the director ordered an immediate transfer. Looking terrified, the injured man refuses to leave even though a better hospital might actually help him. Stepping forward, the nurse tries to protect her patient by promising to take full responsibility for him. Glaring at the woman, the guard warns her to stay out of the way if she wants to keep her job at this place. Lowering her head in defeat, the medical worker realizes there is no way to stop the men from taking the poor guy away. Realizing there is no escape, the victim finally gives in and agrees to follow the officers out of the room. Watching his friend leave, the glasses guy tells him to get proper treatment while they wait for his return. Wearing a look of pure sadness, the prisoner stares back with eyes that show he is truly frightened. Keeping a calm face, the protagonist thinks to himself that the man must endure this trial very quietly. Glancing over his shoulder, he remembers the advice to never trust anyone since only he can protect himself. Walking down the hall, the sound of footsteps echoes as the group moves toward the exit of the facility. Smiling slightly, the smart fellow hopes the real doctors find the truth and report everything to the director. Walking through the hall, the nerd thinks a bad guy might finally pay for his crimes. Outside the tall fences, the bright sky looks peaceful, but things are getting heavy inside. Many prisoners gather in the cafeteria to grab their lunch while talking among themselves. Carrying his tray, the young man hopes his friend gets some rest before returning to the cell. Nearby, 2 inmates start whispering about some crazy news that happened during the night. One guy mentions that someone died trying to escape and wonders who the idiot was. Showing a creepy smile, the blonde prisoner seems to enjoy the news of the tragedy. Opening his mouth wide, he prepares to reveal the name of the person who lost his life. He says the name Tamiya Masaki and laughs about the victim being from the West Block. Immediately the metal tray hits the ground with a loud bang because the news was too shocking. Standing frozen, the protagonist cannot believe what he just heard from those guys. Looking completely lost, he wonders if his close friend is really gone forever. This must be a huge mistake since the boy was supposed to be safe at the hospital. Heavy boots approach the scene as someone important walks toward the shocked group. Suddenly a scary lead guard named Shiro appears and the student fears things will get worse. Looking over his shoulder, the guard starts to talk while everyone else stays quiet in the room. Standing together, the prison staff members wait for the right moment to deliver some very bad news. Announcing the incident, the officer says that Masaki tried to escape but was hit by a truck last night. Hearing about the accident, the glasses guy stays completely frozen and he can't believe what he just heard. Confused and shaking, he shouts that it is impossible because his friend was never that strong. Walking away, the guards tell the inmates to remember this lesson if they want to stay alive. With a scary look on his face, the man warns everyone to stay in line or they will suffer the same fate. Leaving the area through the bars, the officers head back to their station while the prisoners watch. Being dragged away, the young man looks back one last time and he wonders what will happen now. Laughing out loud, a big bully says it was a waste because he was just starting to have some fun. Turning around with anger, the glasses guy calls the muscular man a bastard for being so cruel. Mocking the situation, the giant mentions how the other boy tried to fight back at the beginning. Continuing his story, the jerk says the kid became very obedient once he threatened him in public. Crying from the pain, the small guy screams that he will never forgive the bully for what he did. Losing his temper, the teenager throws a desperate punch and he tries to hit the laughing monster. Starting the fight, a student with glasses tries to punch the muscular giant who barely moves even with the strike. Impact hits hard, but it seems like the big guy did not even feel the blow because of his huge body size. Turning the tables, the muscular titan kicks the poor boy across the room while everyone watches in total silence. Suffering on the floor, the young victim realizes he is out of his league because his power is way too low. Mocking his opponent, the bully asks if he really thought he could play the hero with such a pathetic strength. Grabbing him by the shirt, the beast prepares to end this fight and show who really runs this place right now. Looking very angry, the giant shows how much he hates when people try to stand up to him for no reason at all. Stomping the ground, the brute continues to beat the fallen teen while the crowd just enjoys the violent show. Laughing at the scene, some guys nearby find the beating very entertaining and even encourage him to go on. Receiving more hits, the nerd stays down and can no longer defend himself against the massive human monster. Lifting the loser, the bald attacker mocks him for being so weak while calling him a total piece of trash. Suddenly a tray of food gets in the way and stops the guy from moving forward after his meal is ruined. Catching his arm with ease, a mysterious figure appears and blocks the giant's next move with one single hand. Standing tall, the newcomer complains that his soup was spilled and asks the brute what he plans to do next. Looking totally surprised, the bald bully realizes that this new challenger is someone he met before now. Starting the mess, a massive bald bully grabs a student by the arm while everyone watches in fear. Suddenly the brute swings his hand and sends the poor victim flying across the room with a heavy blow. Watching from the side, some guys discuss if they should help, but they are way too scared of Katsumida. Intervening in the fight, the protagonist grabs the attacker while the victim tries to offer his soup to be spared. While witnessing the chaos, a prisoner warns the big guy to stay in line or he will make their leader look bad. Looking at the cafeteria, it is clear that the big man keeps throwing his weight around without any care. Clenching his teeth, the bald fighter refuses to back down because he does not want to look like a coward. Lying on the cold floor, the student with glasses looks completely crushed after taking those heavy hits. Standing over him, the mysterious hero tells the injured boy to seek help and stay alive for Tamiya. Trembling in pain, the beaten student can barely believe what is happening as his vision gets blurry. Walking away from the scene, the main character ignores the noise and focuses on his own business. Grabbing his chest, the fallen boy struggles to breathe while the pain from the attack lingers in his body. Stumbling through the hall, the weak student tries to leave before things get even worse for his health. Approaching the giant, the protagonist stands right behind him while holding his food tray ready to pass through. Showing a cold expression, the hero tells the bully to move out of the way with a voice full of authority. Tension rises in the room as a massive guy stares down the protagonist who just wants to walk away. Suddenly the bald bully screams for him to stop because he is definitely not done talking yet. Blocking the path with his huge body, the angry man demands attention while everyone else watches in fear. Looking back with a cold stare, the main character warns him to stop before he ends up looking like a total fool. Getting even more upset, the muscular attacker asks if the dark-haired boy really thinks he can lose this fight. Watching from the side, the student with glasses worries if the hero can handle being outnumbered like this. Ignoring the threat, the tall teen tells him to move since his lunch is getting cold, which is super disrespectful. Exploding with rage, the brute throws a giant punch while promising to make the newcomer regret those words. Nearby, some other students start placing bets on who will win even though they are scared of their leader. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the bald fighter puts all his strength into one single massive strike. Moving like a shadow, the main boy dodges easily while the crowd notices the boss has been training hard. Frustrated by the lack of contact, the giant yells for him to stop running and fight like a real man. Crashing against the metal lockers, the heavy fist misses its target as the hero remains completely calm. Seeing the power of that hit, the followers cheer because they think their leader is totally invincible now. Sweating from the intense pressure, the kid in glasses wonders if the bully is actually too strong to be defeated. A massive guy screams that he has had enough while the protagonist thinks everything is just a big bother. Looking back with a confused expression, the main character seems to notice something happening right behind him. Grinning with a creepy face, the bald bully decides that this is the perfect moment to strike. Jumping forward with all his strength, the muscular man believes that defeating this opponent will make him number one. Throwing a giant punch, the attacker misses his target as the dark-haired teen moves slightly out of the way. Standing there with his lunch tray, the hero wonders what is going on while the enemy keeps trying to hit him. Thinking he finally has a chance, the bald fighter shouts that he caught the kid this time around. Moving like a ghost, the protagonist avoids the heavy fist and prepares to finish this boring fight once and for all. Reacting with lightning speed, the quiet boy raises his arm to deliver a counter that no one expected. Landing a heavy blow right on the bully face, the young man shows that he is on a completely different level. Crushing his opponent with a single strike, the hero makes sure the big guy won't be getting up anytime soon. Falling to the ground in total defeat, the boss is helped by his minions who can't believe their leader lost. Walking away while looking at his food, the protagonist complains about spilling a bit of his meal during the scuffle. Passing through the crowd of shocked students, the boy remains calm as everyone watches him in complete silence. Feeling humiliated on the floor, the defeated fighter curses his luck while watching his rival leave the room. Looking at the situation, the glasses guy realizes that only power matters in this prison while he trembles. An officer arrives yelling at everyone to stop the mess and tells them to leave if they are not eating. The warden asks the bald giant if he needs medical help, but the tough guy refuses in a very rude way. Feeling annoyed, the staff member just stares at him since he is tired of dealing with these violent criminals. He orders everyone injured to head towards the infirmary and warns them not to cause any more trouble today. Walking away from the cafeteria, the muscular man shows off his back while the others watch him leave the room. Before leaving, he looks back at the protagonist and tells him to wait for what is coming soon. The villain points at the two of them, saying they were lucky this time but things will change later. Mentioning a scary leader, he says the boss will be free in 1 year to finish both of them off. Hearing that threat, the boy with glasses gets completely frozen while thinking about his dangerous future. Later that day, we see the sign for the medical room where the students usually go for treatment. The female doctor looks surprised to see the young man there again since he is always getting hurt. While being bandaged, the protagonist remembers the face of his enemy and the terrifying warning he received. With a shocked look in his eyes, the kid barely listens when the nurse asks if he is feeling alright. He answers that he is fine even though his face shows that he is totally traumatized by the recent fight. A hand grabs the door handle and turns it to enter the room. The tall teenager walks inside and sees his injured friend sitting there with a nurse. Walking over to the back, the mysterious guy looks through some files on the shelf. He picks up a small bottle of medicine while keeping a very calm expression on his face. As he tries to leave the room, the hurt boy reaches out his hand to stop him. Getting up from his seat, the bandaged guy begs for just one moment of his time. The dark-haired boy tells him to move out of the way because he is busy. Looking completely desperate, the student with glasses starts to shake with fear. Suddenly the weak boy bows down and asks the stranger to teach him how to fight. Surprised by the request, the tall fighter just stares at him without saying a word. After a short silence, the mysterious boy asks for the reason behind this sudden plea. The injured student explains that a dangerous leader is coming for revenge very soon. Looking at the pathetic sight, the dark-haired guy asks if he just wants to survive. Crying out loud, the boy says he needs to stay alive so he can see his mother again. The expert fighter refuses to help and says that being quiet suits the weakling much better. Suddenly a hand reaches out and grabs the protagonist's arm to stop him from leaving. Realizing that only power matters here, the student decides he must grow much stronger. Desperately he begs the mysterious fighter to teach him how to defend himself. While the two stand there, a woman watches the whole situation through a glass window. Shaking off the grip, the tall man says he has no interest in these personal problems. He firmly explains that this is not a school and he will not be a babysitter for anyone. Trying to stop him, the student shouts for him to wait while reaching out once more. Explaining the danger, he says that Kanemoto is a cruel monster who once killed a person. Looking back with a smirk, the hero says the kid could never handle such a criminal. Pointing at the injuries, he tells the boy to just get treated and go back to his room. Walking toward the door, he warns the student not to get in his way without true resolve. Standing alone in the hallway, the boy feels helpless since he has nothing left to do. Suddenly he hears some aggressive shouting coming from inside one of the prison cells. Bullying the others, some inmates steal their things and tell everyone to just get lost. Cruelly, a heavy boot steps right on a precious photo and crushes a happy memory. Looking through his glasses, the young man shows a face of pure anger as the tension in the room starts to rise. Suddenly he rushes toward a group of bullies who are causing trouble and asks what they think they are doing. Grabbing their attention, the student shouts for them to stop because that item belongs to the family of his late friend. However, a powerful kick sends him to the floor while the thug tells him to stay out of things that are none of his business. Another blow lands on the poor guy as the bullies mock him for being completely alone and tell him to go back to his corner. Reaching out in desperation, he can only watch as the situation gets worse and his hope begins to fade away. The mean group laughs while tearing a precious photo, and they claim that nobody is left to protect him from their leader. Looking at the shredded pieces on the cold ground, the glasses wearer feels his heart break into many tiny bits. Gritting his teeth with all his might, the boy finally reaches his limit and decides he cannot take this treatment anymore. Without saying another word, he sprints out of the room and leaves those monsters behind to find his own path. Running through the heavy storm outside, he thinks about how tired he is of being looked down upon and oppressed by everyone. Screaming into the darkness, the rebel declares that he refuses to be killed or mistreated like a total loser ever again. Something drops onto the wet pavement and creates a massive splash while the rain continues to pour down. Ahead of him stands a massive and muscular figure carrying a large bag who looks like someone he should not mess with. Staring ahead with a new sense of purpose, the protagonist decides to live with his head held high and rely on nobody but himself. Standing in the heavy rain, the mysterious man declares he will do whatever it takes to reach his goal. Desperate for help, the shorter guy bows down while begging for just one more chance to prove his worth. Observing the situation closely, the student notices how the fighter now has a completely different look in his eyes. By pointing at the pile, the master sets a tough condition to move all those sandbags within one single hour. With a sharp smile, the muscular mentor prepares the student by telling him to get ready for the challenge. Immediately after hearing the signal to start, the boy lunges forward with everything he has left in him. Running through the storm, the trainee heads toward the massive bags while the expert watches from behind. Upon lifting the first heavy load, the determined young man uses all his strength to haul the weight across the yard. While gritting his teeth, the glasses guy pushes through the exhaustion as the rain pours down on his face. Through his memories, the boy recalls carrying grocery sacks for his mother and running from bullies every single day. After dropping the massive sandbag on the ground, he manages to finish the first part of this insane training mission. When checking the time, the exhausted student realizes it only took 1 minute and feels confident about the task. Watching with crossed arms, the pro admits it was not bad but warns the kid not to disappoint him later. Inside the building, some other prisoners wonder why that guy is working so hard out there in the storm. Because of his reputation, the tall inmate explains that the scary guy is there for assault and is very dangerous. Walking down the hall, a man asks his friend if he got the visit paper because seeing his girl is taking forever. His partner looks confused and asks what exactly he intends to do since talking for 5 minutes is barely enough. Deep inside the cold prison, the bars remain locked while silence fills the dark corridors of the building. A sign above the heavy wooden doors points to the visitation room where people wait for their turn to talk. Suddenly a strong hand crushes a metal can with so much force that the soda sprays everywhere on the table. The bandaged guy looks angry and asks when they will finally eliminate that person who caused all this trouble. Relaxing on the sofa, the leader tells him to wait because they have to deal with another group named Kureha first. Losing his temper, the thug screams if that is more important than the fact that he lost part of his own nose. Remaining silent for a moment, the boss shows a terrifying gaze while his eyes glow with a strange purple light. Feeling desperate, the injured man stands up and demands that his superior says something to him right now. Without saying a word, the leader lands a heavy punch while telling the loud mouth to just shut up and stay quiet. Looking extremely annoyed, the powerful man asks the weakling who he thinks he is to talk back like that. Grabbing the guy by his hair, the boss suggests that he should handle the problem alone if he is so unhappy. Trapped in a tight grip, the follower realizes his mistake as fear takes over his entire body and face. Trembling with terror, the injured thug admits he was wrong and begs for mercy while tears run down his cheeks. A powerful hand suddenly grabs the man and holds him tight to show who is in charge here. The big guy warns that patience is necessary since too many deaths would eventually raise suspicion. Sitting at the table, he decides to keep the victim alive for 1 year before finishing the job. With a scary look, the villain eats fruit while promising to make the poor fellow suffer very slowly. The sun shines through the dark clouds above the prison yard while barbed wire surrounds the area. Carrying a heavy sack, the student struggles and realizes that 15 more bags are still waiting. Exhaustion hits hard, but the boy tries to move just a little more to finish his difficult task. The muscular mentor watches and notes that only 10 minutes remain and the goal seems impossible. Even though the situation is tough, the teacher smiles because things are going better than expected. Turning away, the fighter thinks the weak student will never be able to keep up with real training. Looking up with tired eyes, the kid wonders if he let his master down by being so slow and weak. He accepts the sad reality of having no talent while he continues to drag the weight across the floor. With legs shaking, the boy suspects that the expert never actually intended to teach him anything. A dark thought crosses his mind while he stares blankly through his glasses at the ground below. Walking away, he believes that trying is useless when someone simply lacks the skill to succeed. Carrying a heavy load, the young man gets mocked by a bully asking if he is already quitting. Laughing at the weakness of the boy, the delinquent says that giving up is probably for the best. Standing tall, the huge guy demands that he should just start acting like a loyal dog to stay safe. Screaming with rage, the older man calls him a total failure and complains about his ruined reputation. Suddenly, a firm hand grabs the protagonist and stops him from moving any further. Smirking with a bandaged face, the teen asks if his insults finally managed to hit the mark. Pointing out the obvious, the rival tells him to look in a mirror because he will never be special. Looking down with glowing glasses, the student simply says no because he refuses to accept those words. Grinning maliciously, the bully tells the weak kid to just admit that he is completely useless. Surrounding the poor boy, the group of villains laugh while telling him to just give up on living. Clenching his teeth, the young man insists that he is not trash while ignoring the mean comments. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the hero tells them to never look down on him ever again. Turning around, a mysterious fighter hears the loud noise and wonders what is happening over there. Lifting the heavy sack with all his might, the student decides to struggle until the very end. Refusing to have any regrets, the protagonist vows to change his life even if it costs him everything. Watching from the side, the buff guy notices the effort of the trainee who carries a heavy load on his back. Running with all his might, the student pushes past his limits while his eyes glow with a strange light. Dropping the heavy sack creates a huge cloud of dust as the training ground shakes from the impact. Reaching for the next pile, the exhausted worker doesn't stop even though he is clearly struggling to breathe. Seeing that less than 10 bags remain, he vows to finish the task regardless of the pain in his muscles. Observing the scene, the mentor realizes the boy is pushing too hard and might collapse at any moment. Standing tall, the teacher shouts for him to quit since he has already shown enough determination for today. Turning his head with a sweaty face, the young man refuses to quit because he needs to prove his own worth. Clenching his teeth, the glasses guy screams internally that he must survive this trial no matter what happens. Continuing to run despite the warning, the stubborn trainee ignores the orders to halt his dangerous exercise. Worrying about the situation, the muscular guy warns that this level of stress could actually end his life. Realizing that words are useless now, the master prepares to physically intervene and stop the reckless student. Moving forward slowly, the tired boy tells himself that only a small portion of the work remains to be done. Looking at the floor, he sees just 3 bags left and believes that finishing them will change everything. Wearing a wild smile, the exhausted protagonist is sure he can succeed as he reaches for the final goal. Suddenly a heavy punch lands right in the middle of the guy while he struggles to stay standing. Looking completely shocked, the poor fellow wonders why this is happening to him right now. Standing tall and imposing, the muscular man looks down at his opponent while the sun shines behind him. Explaining the situation, the fighter says he had to use force since the young man reached his limit. Shaking on the floor, the student refuses to give up because he still needs to finish his task. Placing a hand on his shoulder, the mentor tells him that his efforts were already more than enough. Looking up with hope, the exhausted boy asks if the expert will finally agree to teach him. Smiling back, the strong man promises to transform the kid into the most powerful person alive. Breathing heavily, the protagonist lets out a laugh because he finally achieved what he wanted. Falling completely unconscious, the young man lies on the ground while his new teacher watches over him. Losing his vision, the boy starts to see a strange figure wearing a colorful shirt in the darkness. Speaking a mysterious name, the silhouette approaches while the student wonders who this person is. Shouting a death threat, the scary man lunges forward and reveals a terrifying expression. Waking up with a loud scream, the hero jumps out of bed because that nightmare felt way too real. Startling the nurse nearby, the woman looks surprised as the patient suddenly recovers from his sleep. Inside the infirmary, the patient struggles to breathe while the doctor thinks his condition is actually pretty insane. Suddenly a mysterious guy walks into the room and claims that he is being completely serious about his words. Looking quite annoyed, the lady doctor stares at him since she does not seem to trust his intentions at all. Walking toward the exit, the tall man says he will wait outside and gives her 10 minutes to finish up the checkup. Once the door closes, the room becomes quiet and the atmosphere feels a bit more private for the 2 people left. Standing before the injured student, the mentor looks down while the poor guy seems a bit intimidated by his presence. Calmly he explains that they must meet here for treatment as a cover story to avoid any unwanted eyes on them. Lowering his voice, the tall fighter warns that their special training must stay a total secret until the very end. Feeling incredibly hyped, the glasses boy bows down and promises to give every ounce of energy he has left. Harshly, the trainer mentions that the sandbags were just a warm-up and says the kid is still way too weak. Turning his back, he adds that simple determination will never be enough to survive the path they are taking. While cleaning the wounds with cotton, the female doctor works quietly as the boy remains lost in his own head. Staring at his arm, the student feels bad because all his hard work did not seem to make any real difference. Noticing his sad face, the medical expert stops for a second and asks if there is something bothering him right now. Looking up, the young man wonders about his new teacher and asks what kind of person he actually is in reality. Starting with the mysterious guy named Kojo, who always acts like a lone wolf while nobody knows his true identity. Moving to the doctor, explaining how he only did everything for his family and that the boy should ask him personally. While the woman uses sharp scissors to cut through the white bandages because the treatment is finally over. Finishing the job, she tells the chubby student that some secrets in this world are better left alone for his safety. After mentioning that the guards were already notified, she says that the mysterious fighter is waiting in the storage. With a gentle smile, the medical professional encourages the young man to do his absolute best during this meeting. Outside, the sun shines brightly over the massive concrete building where all these strange events are taking place. Seeing the sign hanging on the door, it is clear that they are now in their free time for the day. Pushing the door open, a small beam of light enters the pitch-black room where something hidden might be waiting. Gasps of surprise come from the student as his eyes widen because he cannot believe what he is seeing right now. Examining the messy storage area, he notices many lockers and shelves stacked high in the shadows. Complaining about the lack of visibility, the teenager tries to find his way through the dim and quiet space. Standing in the corner, the expert explains that training in the dark helps sharpen other senses for future battles. Showing deep respect, the boy bows quickly while shouting a loud morning greeting to his intimidating teacher. Acting serious, the mentor tells his new pupil that there are 2 specific things he must remember from now on. Starting the secret training, the instructor warns that this must remain a complete mystery to everyone else. Standing at attention, the chubby student yells his agreement while his eyes glow with pure intensity. Looking a bit confused, the young man asks for the reason behind such a strict and weird rule. Cutting him off immediately, the mentor says that no questions are allowed and he just needs to obey. Wanting to see his current level, the mysterious man gives him exactly 60 seconds to show what he can do. Jumping around the room like a frog, the boy tries his best to move fast despite his heavy body. Dropping to the floor, the student struggles to finish a single push-up while his arms shake like jelly. Sweating bullets during the sit-ups, the protagonist feels his stomach burning with every painful rep. Gritting his teeth, the trainee tries to pull his weight up, but his muscles are reaching their limit. Counting the total reps, the teacher notes that he only did 23 jumps and 6 push-ups. Sighing in disappointment, the trainer calls the performance pathetic and decides to change the whole workout. Ordering him to stop, the instructor watches the student hang from the bar with his last bit of energy. Collapsing on the ground, the boy hears his coach ask if yesterday was just a lucky burst of strength. Setting a huge goal for 3 days, the man demands 40 jumps and 20 push-ups plus 60 sit-ups. Feeling totally shocked, the student asks when the real fighting lessons will actually begin. Looking at the trainee, the instructor asks how he expects to fight anyone in his current state. Suddenly a fast punch stops right in front of the glasses guy as he stands there frozen. Grabbing the collar, the mentor says that with such a weak body, dodging is impossible for him. Turning away from the exhausted boy, the tall man tells him to keep going with the practice. Begging for mercy, the student asks if he can please rest for just 5 minutes. Glancing back, the teacher says he needs to do as told despite the lack of a good explanation. Standing over the newbie, the trainer mentions a special plan since he is overwhelmingly weak. Pointing at the room leader, the expert says 70 push-ups in 1 minute are needed to win. The teenager looks terrified when he hears that he must finish all those reps so quickly. Crossing his arms, the mysterious figure says power is the only thing that matters here. Warning about a guy named Kanemoto, the leader describes him as a very mean person. Sweating bullets, the boy listens while being told he has no future without growing stronger. Visualizing a scary shadow, the kid realizes that life here will be like a waking hell. Smiling slightly, the advisor asks if the trainee still thinks he has time to take a break. Getting serious, the student shows a fiery look in his eyes while preparing to continue the work. Shouting at the window bars, the desperate student finally makes a choice to face his destiny. Directly facing the mysterious man, the younger boy screams that his only goal is to survive this world. Bowing his head deeply, the heavy-set kid begs the tall man to teach him how to fight. While looking down with a cold gaze, the mentor warns him not to waste time with empty promises. Sweating from the pressure, the student realizes he must prove his worth through hard work alone. Because he remembers a painful past, the boy thinks about people he failed to keep safe before. Staring into the kid's eyes, the teacher asks if he truly understands the weight of this path. Yelling with all his might, the teenager agrees, and the intense hellish practice begins immediately. Near the glass window, a doctor sees the brutal exercise while the coach yells out corrections. Smiling to herself, the lady realizes the trainer is just a lonely guy who hides his kind heart. Collapsing on the floor, the exhausted boy gasps for air after training that never seemed to end. Down on the ground, his body feels like it might break into pieces from the constant stress. Waking up later, the young man is shocked to see his old uniform is now way too big for him. Standing nearby, the master explains that he must wear baggy outfits to hide his muscular frame. Seriously warning him of the danger, the mentor says enemies will attack if he looks too strong. Nodding nervously, the four-eyed guy agrees to learn about the power structure and the leaders of this reformatory. Standing in the empty room, the dark-haired mentor explains that this info is vital for survival while asking about Kanemoto. Crossing his arms, the protagonist clarifies that only that specific guy is obsessed with using raw power to rule others. Looking quite curious, the student asks how the other bosses manage to reach the top without just using their fists. Smiling slightly, the experienced fighter asks if his companion really thought that strength was the only way to rule people. Showing a dark silhouette of 4 figures, he explains that wisdom is essential to gain everything while sacrificing the least. To keep their secrets safe from everyone else, they usually gather in the visitation room under the guise of an exchange. Walking down the hallway, we see that every leader keeps a trusted bodyguard nearby just in case a massive brawl starts. Looking from above, the camera shows 3 powerful men sitting around a large wooden table for their monthly meeting. Tapping his fingers on the surface of the table, one of the leaders seems a bit impatient for the conversation to begin. Identified as the South Block leader, Kureha Tetsu suggests they should just start chatting like they normally do. Turning his head toward his rival, Tetsu mentions that Kanemoto cannot stay silent after what happened in his own territory. Getting very angry, Kanemoto shouts that the situation has nothing to do with the pink-haired guy, so he should back off. Mocking his rival, the long-haired boss says that maybe he should be neutered if he cannot control himself anymore. Continuing his provocation, Tetsu mentions that things will get worse if that other guy cannot even fight anymore. The pink-haired guy starts laughing while saying that his rival will end up all alone and pathetic. Kanemoto gets furious and slams the table while demanding that the other man repeat those words. This smiling man is Kazami Shusuk, and he mentions that a certain incident is being investigated right now. He continues teasing by saying the victim was just trying to help, but the angry leader wants him dead. Looking relaxed, the provocateur wonders if the lack of control was actually planned by his rival. The red-haired man mocks the fighter by calling him a total idiot just like his boss. Suddenly the muscular leader loses his patience and grabs the jerk by the clothes to start a fight. With a terrifying look, the big guy asks if the Joker is really that desperate to see some blood today. Instead of being scared, the crazy man grabs a glass bottle and prepares to attack with a wide smile. He strikes the rival leader right in the face while screaming that nobody can match his strength. Seeing the chaos, the scarred man gets worried and says that the director will be very upset about this. The stressed guy shouts for everyone to stop because things are getting way too out of hand. Another man enters the room while lighting a cigarette and calls the whole scene completely ridiculous. This is Naru's Koichi, and he tells the group that they are still just a bunch of little brats. Showing his power, the newcomer grabs the angry fighter by the neck to put an end to the argument. A tattooed man in white stands tall because he just stopped a fight between two angry guys. One guy with a scar thanks him since only he had the strength to stop the messy clash. Taking charge, the big leader with long hair decides that it is finally time to start the meeting. Glaring from the floor, the pink-haired guy looks pretty annoyed about being stopped like that. While grabbing his jacket, the tattooed man is told to keep a very close eye on his rivals. He stands firm and warns everyone that another incident like this should never happen again. The scarred guy agrees while saying they should avoid trouble because of his brother. Sitting in the shadows, the big leader stays quiet, though he looks extremely angry inside. Looking back, the tattooed man says there will be hell to pay if they mess with his territory. Smiling, the pink-haired guy jokes that he does not mind as long as people control their pets. Silence fills the room as the others wait for a reaction that never really comes from the boss. Accepting the quiet as an agreement, the pink-haired man prepares to leave with a big smirk. Clapping his hands together, he happily announces that their business here is finally finished. Everyone walks away while the boss sits alone and grips a glass tightly with his shaking hand. Suddenly the glass shatters into pieces because the big man is clearly fuming with pure rage. The man looks incredibly furious while his face is twisted in pure rage and shadows cover his eyes. Walking into the room, the subordinate calls out to the leader who just smashed a glass on the wooden table. Lowering his head, the messenger mentions that the other bosses were not convinced during the talk about Tamiya. With a wicked smile, the boss laughs because someone told him not to finish off a guy named Amamori. Looking completely serious, the big man declares that such a request is ridiculous and nobody can stop his path. Sitting at his desk, he tells the servant to let everyone do as they please as long as the target stays alive. Bowing deeply, the subordinate accepts the new orders while the atmosphere in the office stays heavy and tense. Resting his hand on the mess of broken glass, the leader whispers the name of his enemy with a cold tone. Looking like a true demon, the villain thinks that things are finally starting to get much more interesting now. Shifting the focus, we see a student with glasses explaining how there are many different types of leaders around. He lists the names of several dangerous individuals while describing their violent or ruthless personalities. Suddenly stopping his explanation, the boy looks surprised as if he just remembered something very important. Mentioning a guy named Naruz, the student explains that this specific leader actually hates getting into fights. Standing tall with many tattoos, this powerful man protects his group but will personally punish any rule breakers. Feeling a bit skeptical, the glasses kid asks if this person really has that much power over the other students. Naruz is the strongest guy in the reformatory, but since nobody knows his past, everyone is scared of him. After hearing all the information, the glasses guy is told to get back to his training sessions right away. A pile of clothes sits on the floor while the student is ordered to start his set of 20 push-ups. Watching carefully, the doctor notices the boy is very motivated while she tells him to keep his legs straight. Writing a status report for Amamori, she hopes the young man keeps doing his absolute best during the practice. Deep in the hallway, some guards stand near a room and mention that the area is completely off limits to others. Standing over a defeated person, the bully complains about being humiliated by someone named Kureha in front of everyone. Striking with great force, the fighter asks how the loser plans to fix the mess he created earlier today. Even though he is hurt, the bald guy promises to find the enemy and beat him into the ground very soon. Glowing with rage, the tall figure yells at the trash on the floor for causing so much trouble and shame. Trying to help the angry person stay cool, a friend tells him that getting mad won't solve their problems. Suggesting they let the situation go, the calm leader mentions that the punishment given was already more than enough. Turning his back, the strategist reminds his ally to stay focused because they have much bigger goals to achieve now. Bowing low on the ground, the injured subordinate apologizes to the boss while shaking from the intense pressure. Giving a final warning, the intimidating guy tells the failure to leave and threatens him if another mistake happens. Standing in the quiet room, the beaten man looks at his friends while thinking about the mess he is currently in. Blaming Amamori for all his problems, the thug decides it is time to give that guy a very warm welcome. Smiling with a wicked expression, the two-toned hair guy says they will make sure the unlucky guy enjoys the pain. While straining his muscles with a look of rage, the nerd realizes that a proper greeting is coming his way soon. Outside the massive gray building, the clouds move slowly over the place where the next events will happen. Deep inside the empty shower room, the young man in blue clothes works hard to finish his chores all by himself. Rubbing his sore back, the worker wonders if his tired body can even handle the training scheduled for today. Suddenly the water starts spraying from the pipes and catches the poor boy completely off guard as he works. As he checks the main valve, the cleaner feels sure he turned the handle off correctly just a few moments ago. Surprised by the noise, he sees every shower head turning on and soaking the entire tiled room in seconds. Sensing a shadow behind him, the student turns around while wondering what is actually happening in this area. Roughly grabbing his dark hair, the bully slams the target forward with a lot of force and no warning. Explaining they are just following the leader's orders, the bad guys point toward a bucket on the floor. Looking into the dirty liquid, the glasses guy sees his reflection mixed with some gross bugs in the water. With a loud laugh, the mean guy shoves the victim's face into the bucket to make sure he stays hydrated today. Inside the laundry room, we see several prisoners working hard while folding the clean clothes. Holding the cart handle, the guy with glasses mentions that this is the pile they must wash now. Looking around nervously, the young man realizes that everyone is ignoring him for some reason. Moving toward the big machine, the protagonist starts putting the dirty sheets inside the drum. Suddenly someone comes from behind and forces the poor student right into the metal washer. Struggling to get out, the boy falls deep into the machine while the bullies laugh at his pain. Closing the heavy door, the mean guys say they need to hurry so they can start the cycle already. With a wicked smile, one of the bullies presses the start button to begin the laundry process. Trapped in the dark space, the main character feels the water starting to hit his face and body. Banging on the glass window, the victim begs to be let out, but the criminals just watch him suffer. Watching the scene, one prisoner gets worried, though the leader says it is fine since he won't die. Another inmate feels bad for the kid because enduring that kind of torture seems impossible. Moving to the cafeteria, we see a tray filled with simple food being handed to a hungry person. Looking totally destroyed, the glasses wearer holds his meal while feeling the weight of the bullying. Walking slowly past the tables, the boy tries to find a spot to eat his lunch in peace. A bully suddenly dumps hot food over the poor guy's head while laughing like a total maniac. Screaming in pain, the victim falls to the ground because the liquid was burning his skin. Those mean guys just stand there and mock him by asking if he is doing alright. Another jerk kicks the metal tray right into his face and tells him to watch his step. Grabbing the boy by his hair, the bully demands that he finish his meal to grow stronger. Suddenly a guard appears and yells at everyone because they are making a mess in the cafeteria. Walking away, the officer tells the poor student to go find the infirmary on his own. Later we see a white cloth covered in red sitting on a tray after the boy gets treated. Touching his new bandage, the protagonist looks exhausted and wonders how much more his body can take. While tending to his wounds, the nurse asks if he has any sort of plan to survive this place. A tall prisoner enters the room and explains that he is not the kid's protector at all. Looking confused, the glasses boy asks what the man means by those strange words. The mysterious guy claims that there are lessons to learn even when you are getting hit. He explains that every fighter has a sign before they punch and that observing them is the key to winning. Feeling overwhelmed, the youngster wonders how he can think clearly while someone is attacking him. Placing a firm hand on the shoulder, the mysterious man offers to teach the student some real skills. He mentions that this choice requires total conviction while they stand together in the quiet hallway. The mentor asks if the kid wants to be mocked or become a person who makes everyone shake with fear. Breathing heavily, the boy with glasses looks ready to change his life despite the obvious pressure. Moving into a dark room, they begin training as the student tries his best to land a solid hit. Without warning, the teacher delivers a fast punch that sends the trainee reeling back from the force. He warns that letting your guard down leads to death, and the student quickly says he understands. Watching every move, the master explains that every fighter shows a habit when they start to attack. Another fist flies toward his face, so the kid must focus to identify the timing of the strike. Staring with wide eyes, he tries to commit the pattern to memory because that is the secret to winning. Using all his focus, the boy finally ducks a swing while the master asks if he can dodge the next. Both of them are panting since it took 1 whole hour just to avoid a single attack from the expert. Patting his arm, the mentor says there is a deep meaning in getting beaten up by stronger people. The tall man tells him not to waste this rare opportunity, and the trainee agrees with a loud yes. Putting on his brown jacket, the teacher leaves to handle other business and tells the kid to go home. Looking at the trainee, the black-haired man says he did a great job and adds something special. Shocked by the compliment, the student hears that he is finally no longer a total loser. Walking away, the teacher counts to 4 while leaving the young man alone in the bathroom. Inside a clinic, the doctor tells the man to use eye drops for internal injuries and asks for mercy. Turning away, the tall guy claims that being too nice to the boy will not actually help him grow. Explaining the situation, the mentor says they have no time because their current plan is way too dangerous. Worrying about the risks, the lady asks if he fears the student might just break under the pressure. Smiling confidently, the instructor says his pupil is much tougher than anyone would ever think. Having a lot of faith, the guy explains that he believes in the kid just as much as she does. Training involves forcing the eyes to stay open even during the most difficult and painful moments. Blasting his face with water, the trainee tries to get used to tracking fast-moving things. Feeling extreme pain, the boy continues the routine because he needs to become a real fighter. Remembering all the times he got beaten up, the young man realizes how weak he used to be. Slowly getting the hang of things, he starts to see the attacks coming even when his face is hit. Watching the bullies laugh, the victim notes that even the guards ignore what is happening to him. In the cafeteria, 2 guys chat about placing a bet on a target because it has been a long time since the last game. Standing nearby, the smiling man asks his friend if he forgot about the dangerous guy known as the Collector. Inside a dark solitary cell, the mysterious prisoner waits for the moment he can finally get out today. Showing off his creepy trophies, the narrator mentions how much stress this individual has built up lately. Grinning like a total maniac, the criminal seems very excited to go wild and cause some serious trouble. Outside the prison walls, the sun shines as the inmates prepare for their daily free time in the yard. While others whisper in the corner, the quiet protagonist sits alone without knowing what is about to happen. Walking beside a guard, the crazy inmate gets a warning to stay out of trouble or return to solitary. Ignoring the warning, the dangerous man just grins while planning his next move against the poor target. Feeling a strange presence, the young man with glasses looks down and wonders who is approaching him now. Standing tall, the Collector suddenly challenges the protagonist to a fight right in the middle of the yard. Watching from afar, the other prisoners identify him as Kyoima Taketo, who is completely crazy in the head. Known for hurting others, this guy takes things from his victims to store in his creepy collection jars. Approaching with a fake smile, the psychopath introduces himself while looking at his next victim with evil intent. Demanding a prize from the face of the student, the villain tells him to lie to the guards about the accident. Looking at the scene, the boy with glasses feels a sudden shock when his opponent stares him down. Smiling creepily, the messy-haired fighter notices the lack of response and decides to start the brawl. Suddenly, the aggressive inmate lunges forward while assuming that the silence means the fight is officially on. Nearby, a tall man holds up a notebook to organize bets since the odds are currently 1-1. Launching a fast strike, the attacker swings his arm and hits the student right in the middle of his chest. Gasping for air, the victim clutches his torso because that punch really hurt his internal organs. Scratching his own face, the crazy guy laughs while saying that the new kid has a very fresh look. Preparing another move, the villain winds up his arm to deliver a finishing blow to the struggling teenager. Focusing his vision, the protagonist tells himself to watch every single movement very carefully. Weaving through the air, the young student manages to pinpoint the exact timing of the incoming strike. Staying calm, the glasses wearer tries to see through the habits of his rival during this intense prison battle. Ducking low, the nerd avoids a massive swing that almost takes his head off during the scuffle. Lowering his stance, the kid realizes that he is finally starting to understand how his enemy actually fights. Looking frustrated, the wild fighter stands back and grumbles because his target is suddenly getting faster. Lunging again, the crazy inmate screams that luck won't save the student from getting beat up once more. Looking closely, the glasses boy notices his rival always uses the same move while trying to choke him with the right hand. Exhausted, the young fighter tells the crazy man that if he loves gambling, then things are about to get serious now. Taking a huge risk, the protagonist decides to bet everything on one final strike as he charges forward with full speed. Falling to the floor, the broken glasses signal that the real battle has finally reached its peak in front of everyone. With a powerful movement, the hero lands a devastating blow that sends his opponent flying through the air instantly. Crashing against the ground, the long-haired prisoner can no longer keep up with the intense pressure of the fight. Bleeding and defeated, the tough guy realizes his mistake, but it is already too late to change the outcome of the match. Continuing the assault, the glasses boy ensures his victory by landing more hits to finish the job once and for all. Watching from the sidelines, the other inmates are completely shocked because they never expected this result today. Lying motionless, the previous favorite to win looks pathetic while everyone wonders how he could have lost so easily. Breathing heavily, the winner tries to catch his breath after using every bit of strength left in his tired body. Standing behind the fence, a mysterious man suspects that some kind of illegal substance was used to gain an advantage. Showing the final results, the betting paper confirms that Gen Mori is the true champion of this prison brawl. Smirking at the outcome, the young man feels satisfied with the rewards he earned after such a dangerous confrontation. Getting a playful flick on the head, the bandaged warrior is told not to let the fame go to his brain just yet. Looking concerned, the doctor tells the boy that he almost lost his life during that fight. Still bandaged and shirtless, the protagonist smiles while feeling lucky to be alive after winning. Holding the broken glasses, he feels sad because that was a special gift from his mother. Suddenly, Kojo enters the room and asks if the medical treatment is finally over. Walking slowly towards the bed, the mysterious leader prepares to give some harsh feedback. Bowing deeply, the fighter shows respect while being told he only beat the weakest guy there. Standing tall, the mentor warns that things will only get tougher since many enemies remain. Handing over a small box, the dark-haired man surprises the young student with a gesture. Smiling slightly, the boss says this is a special reward for achieving his very first victory. Leaving the room, he warns that tomorrow will be brutal, so the boy must become a vicious dog. Grumbling about his attitude, the doctor thinks the leader should try being nicer for once. Opening the gift, the protagonist finds contact lenses that will help him see without glasses. Pointing to the table, the woman mentions there is actually one more surprise waiting for him. Reaching for a bag, she tells the tired fighter to go ahead and open the next package. Seeing the delicious food, the boy listens as she explains how a message nearly made her late. Looking at the box, the young man stays completely silent because of what he sees inside. Opening the lid reveals the special spicy rice cakes that his mother used to cook for him back then. Standing nearby, the female doctor mentions that his mom seemed to be doing all right when they met. Tears start to fall as the fighter realizes this meal is exactly like the one from his childhood home. Remembering the past, he sees himself as a small kid cheering while his parent prepared his favorite food. Smiling warmly, the mother tells her son that dinner is almost ready while he celebrates the tasty meal. Looking closely at the snack, it looks just like the version his family used to serve every single day. Swallowing the food through his tears, the guy says it tastes amazing because it brings back old memories. Confused by the situation, he asks how she knew his favorite meal, but she says she is more than a doctor. Explaining the truth, she reveals that a friend named Kojo called earlier and asked her to buy that dish. Hearing those words, the protagonist realizes his companion really believed he would win his big battle. Reaching for a tissue box, the medical professional prepares to help him dry his face after the crying. Handing him the paper, she tells the boy to enjoy his victory dinner and then take a long nap to recover. Chewing slowly, the warrior understands that the training and the fights will only get much harder now. Shifting the scene, we see another person being pinned to the floor by a foot after losing a brutal match. The big guy stares down at the loser on the floor while mocking him for being unable to defeat a weak kid. Lying on the ground with a bruised face, the fallen boy laughs while saying that everything feels great right now. He stares with wide eyes while thinking about Amamori Gen and how much he wants to learn about his secret power. Angered by the weird smile, the bully kicks the guy on the floor while asking what he finds so funny. Nearby, a mysterious man with long hair flickers his lighter to smoke a cigarette while watching the whole scene. Sitting on top of some boxes, the leader tells the bully to stop because he wants to handle this kid personally. The boss then orders Ishida to keep watching the protagonist since he wants to see his true potential for himself. Walking away, the companion looks back at the injured boy while wondering if his recent win was actually real. Clenching his fist, the leader questions if the student is still a loser or if he has finally changed for good. Transitioning to a different place, we see a simple light bulb hanging from the ceiling inside a training room. Standing tall, the coach announces that starting today they will include 2 new advanced fighting styles to the routine. Getting into a battle stance, the young fighter focuses his mind while preparing for the intense workout ahead. Both men face each other in the dark room while the master waits for the student to make the first move. Lunging forward with great speed, the boy throws a powerful punch while aiming directly at his opponent. Gritting his teeth, the student shows a fierce expression while putting all his strength into the training session. Sparring begins as one guy throws a heavy punch while training inside the quiet gym. Keeping his core tight, the student listens to the teacher explaining how to protect internal organs properly. Grabbing the neck of the trainee, the mentor explains that breathing is the most vital part of every single fight. Counting from 1 to 3, the master watches as the student struggles to hold his breath during the exercise. Shock fills the boy when he realizes that he cannot move while his opponent prepares another quick strike. Time seems to slow down when the air runs out and all 5 senses start to become very dull for the fighter. Watching his pupil on the floor, the instructor says the body freezes once the person finally breathes again. Looking surprised, the younger fighter wonders what he should do if someone actually attacks him like that in reality. Standing tall, the mentor explains that controlling the heartbeat is the secret key to mastering his own breath. Mastering the flesh requires a lot of willpower if the boy truly wants to become the strongest person alive. Understanding how the body works is essential because only then can someone deliver a truly effective blow. Pointing at the ribs, the teacher tells the student to go find a doctor and study the human skeleton like a map. Getting hit in the stomach, the trainee hears that he is just flailing blindly without any proper knowledge. Pinning the opponent while attacking is a great strategy to drive a knee into a vital spot for massive damage. Shouting for better focus, the coach tells the student to work on his footwork while kicking the heavy bag hard. Training hard, he kicks the heavy bag while receiving orders to repeat the move over and over. Moving even faster, the young man follows the instruction to use both feet with more speed and power. Letting out a loud shout, the fighter delivers a massive strike while his shadow moves across the wall. Sweat drips down his face as the protagonist maintains a focused look after finishing the intense drill. Standing tall, the mentor praises the performance and gets a polite response from his hard-working student. Handing over some bandages, the teacher says he is ready for a real battle where the first win matters. Rapping his knuckles, the boy hears that his own room leader is the perfect target for a challenge. Looking serious, the main character prepares his fists while the master tells him to become a scary beast. Suddenly an announcement rings through the speakers telling everyone that their free time is finally over. Walking down the dark hallway, the inmates head back to their cells while the tension starts to rise. Giving one last bit of advice, the man tells him to pick the right moment and use his new skills. Wondering about his next move, the hero ponders if he should fight alone or show off for the crowd. Entering the small room, the teenager is greeted by the other guys who notice his early return. Seeing his cellmates relaxing, the boy realizes they did not expect him to finish his training so soon. Noticing a bully on his mattress, the protagonist gets angry when the jerk says he is just using the bed. Inside the room, the long-haired guy stands there as the protagonist points at him with a surprised face. Looking very upset, the young man in blue scrubs starts to react with a lot of anger at what just happened. Below them there is a gross mess that seems to be the cause of all this sudden commotion between the group. Pulling his hand away in disgust, the boy yells because he touched something that he really did not want to touch. Watching the reaction, the older guy just smirks while thinking that the situation is actually quite funny to watch. Bursting out in loud laughter, he mentions how the new people always have the most entertaining reactions in this place. While the boy runs away, another man tells him to just wipe his hands and stop making such a huge deal out of it. Quickly reaching the sink, the protagonist washes his hands while the others talk about helping each other out as men. Getting way too close, the purple-haired man touches the boy and talks about the small price of getting protection. Showing a very sharp look, the protagonist's eye reveals that he is not going to take any more of this behavior. Suddenly reacting with a quick move, the boy tells the creep to get off him because he is losing his patience. Stumbling backward, the older man holds his face in pain after being hit by the younger guy who is much faster. Feeling a red mark on his skin, the man looks completely enraged and asks what the boy thinks he is doing right now. Moving with extreme speed, the protagonist prepares to dodge the next attack while staying calm and focused on the fight. Ending the struggle, the young man takes down his opponent with a smooth move that leaves the other guy on the ground. Looking at his opponent, the bully smiles while saying it was a decent effort. Realizing the situation, the purple-haired guy decides he must actually try now. Suddenly his feet move fast across the floor to close the distance. Both fighters clash in the middle of the room as they trade blows. Feeling the impact, the black-haired boy notices his hands are turning numb. Showing off his ego, the leader asks how anyone thinks he reached this rank. While throwing another strike, he claims that he hates acting weak more than anything. Comparing himself to others, he says he would have ended up gone just like Tamiya. Preparing for the next move, the protagonist remains focused on his target. Shouting for the bully to be quiet, the dark-haired fighter throws a counter. Catching the arm with ease, the young man shows that he is much faster. Warning the enemy not to dare speak ill of Masaki, he puts pressure on the limb. Grabbing tight, he applies force until the joint makes a loud snapping sound. Screaming in pure rage, the injured fighter promises to end his life. Launching a final blow, the hero wonders if the room leader was always this weak. Starting the fight, the main character lands a solid blow on the opponent's chest while the crowd watches in silence. Pushing his hand down, the boy slams his palm against the surface to stabilize himself and prepare for the next move. Moving with speed, the hero dodges a strike and goes low so he can target the other man's weak legs. Suddenly, a memory appears where a teacher explains how the knee ligaments are very fragile and easy to break. Recalling that lesson, the fighter strikes the exact spot on the joint to disable the enemy quickly. Feeling his leg buckle, the bully screams while the precise hit takes away all his strength and balance. Without wasting time, the young man follows up with a heavy punch right into the center of the target's face. Crashing to the floor, both fighters end up on the ground while our protagonist keeps the upper hand in the struggle. Dominating the position, the hero begins to rain down hits while the fallen leader can barely defend himself. Thinking back to his training, he remembers that striking vital points is the best way to break someone's spirit. Continuing the assault, the student shows no mercy and keeps attacking until the opponent stops moving. Watching from the side, the other prisoners realize their leader is losing and decide they must jump in to help. Rushing forward with a shout, a long-haired guy tries to surprise the main character with a desperate strike. Reacting instantly, the protagonist switches targets and hits the newcomer in the neck to stop him in his tracks. Falling to the ground, the second attacker clutches his throat because the pain is much worse than he expected. Suddenly a tall prisoner approaches with a large metal bowl while looking ready to cause some serious trouble. Looking up with a scary red glow in his eyes, the boy gets asked if he also wants to be defeated right now. Panicking, the guy with the bowl says he was just passing by after seeing the protagonist sitting on top of a fallen enemy. Hidden inside a leg bandage, a sharp makeshift weapon is pulled out slowly by the person lying on the cold ground. Even though he looks beaten, the guy on the floor smirks while calling the black-haired youth a total idiot. Without warning, the fallen man lunges forward with a sharp object and tries to strike the main character's chest. Moving quickly, the boy tries to react, but the sudden sneak attack managed to leave a small mark on his clothes. Screaming for the protagonist to perish, the attacker swings his weapon once more with everything he has left. Showing incredible reflexes, the main character catches the guy's arm mid-air and stops the strike instantly. Staring deeply into his soul, the boy says that the one who will actually face their end is the attacker himself. Using his superior strength, the youth pulls the enemy closer so he can finish this fight once and for all. With a massive impact, the protagonist lands a heavy punch right on the man's face and sends him flying back. Falling to the floor, the sharpened toothbrush is dropped as the enemy loses all his remaining energy. After the quick scuffle, the boy grabs the defeated man by his clothes to move him out of the way. Walking away from the mess, the main character leaves the fallen opponent unconscious on the prison floor. Panting heavily after the intense fight, the young man looks down while sweat drips from his tired face. Seeing the result, the other inmates start trembling because they realize everything changed just now. Standing tall, the protagonist holds the former boss and declares that he is the new leader of this room. Quietly, the dark prison hallway remains still while the cold lights flicker over the empty floor. Walking through the corridor, a guard announces that the lights will be turned off in only 10 minutes. Surrounded by many people, the black-haired boy stays quiet while everyone else prepares for bed. Clenching his fist tightly, the fighter feels the adrenaline still pumping through his aching body. Staring at his hand, the hero can barely believe that he actually won this dangerous battle. Moving past him, another prisoner complains that he is blocking the path and tells him to get out of the way. Talking about the situation, the long-haired guy mentions that following the rules was necessary for survival. Grabbing his blanket, the inmate warns the new boss to stay alert since standing out brings a lot of trouble. Curiously, the protagonist asks what will happen now to the previous leader who just lost the fight. Laughing at the question, the companion says that losers always face a miserable destiny in this place. Pointing out his clothes, the friend says he should stop hiding his power because more fights are coming soon. Staying alone in the shadows, the boy wonders what challenges await him in this dark cell tonight. The guard shouts for everyone to sleep while the lights go out in the prison hall. Our main character wonders what happens to leaders who lose their spot since he heard it is basically hell. Looking at the hierarchy, he realizes that the ward boss is his very next opponent to beat. Resting on his bed, the boy knows he must get much stronger to help his friend Masaki. He decides that he needs to learn more fighting secrets from Kojo to survive this place. Darkness fills the cell block while the prisoners try to rest for the next day. A mysterious shadow moves along the wall while someone walks silently through the corridor. The guard passes by the cells using his flashlight to check if everyone is behaving. One of the inmates holds a small piece of paper while looking quite serious about its content. This guy approaches the bars and calls out for his boss to show him the secret message. Holding the paper, the leader with silver hair notices that his subordinate lost the fight. Looking closely at the note, he calls the protagonist a stray dog who is acting out. Crushing the paper in his fist, the boss looks angry because the kid is finally showing his teeth. Deep inside the South Ward, the atmosphere becomes heavy as the top dogs prepare for trouble. Laughter echoes near some books while the tension in the reformatory continues to rise. Checking the latest report, the long-haired man notices that the boy is performing better than expected. While laughing on the floor, he imagines that his rival must be losing his mind right now. Toward the West Ward, the scene changes to a much more quiet and serious part of the jail. Sitting alone in the dark room, the scarred inmate waits patiently for some important news. After looking at the small paper, he finds it interesting that the newcomer actually won his fight. Through the East Ward, the guard walks slowly while heading toward another section of the prison. Knocking on the cell bars, the officer gets the attention of the man resting inside. Even though it was unexpected, the guard says that the kid just took down the room leader. Resting his hand on the table, the muscular guy asks if anyone got hurt during the brawl. Peering through the gap, the officer explains that the winner is fine but the leader is in bad shape. Thus the guard says goodnight and leaves the prisoner alone after the short talk. Standing by the window, the tattooed man watches the night sky while thinking about the news. Clearly annoyed, the big guy realizes that this whole situation is becoming a huge pain. Outside the tall buildings, the barbed wire fences show how dangerous this place really is. Whispering in the hallway, the other inmates seem shocked after hearing about the recent defeat. Thinking to himself, the protagonist notices that everyone is acting weirdly after his last big fight for a rank. Suddenly, a guy with a big scar on his face approaches the table and calls out the main character by his name. Introducing himself as the boss of the West Ward, the man named Kazami shows off a very confident and creepy smile. Sitting down, the newcomer explains that he is close friends with the local leader, so being there is not a problem. Tired of the small talk, the hero asks what the visitor actually wants since they have nothing to discuss together. Leaning in, the scarred man warns that another boss is coming for him, but he is willing to offer some help. Looking confused, the young fighter asks for a better explanation of what this mysterious offer actually means. Smiling even wider, the leader says he will provide full protection as long as the boy agrees to be a secret spy. Hearing the deal, the student remains silent while the boss brags about how easy it is for him to keep someone safe. Without wasting any time, the protagonist simply says no and continues eating his meal like nothing happened. Surprised by the refusal, the older guy asks if the kid really thinks he can survive a gang fight alone. Calmly, the boy points out that the boss must be desperate for allies if he is recruiting someone under watch. Getting very angry, the man screams that the rookie will probably be killed before he can even try to help out. Slamming his hand hard against the metal table, the scarred leader lets his frustration show to everyone nearby. Walking away in a huff, the boss tells the hero to suit himself and leave his fate to whatever happens next. Whispers fill the hallway because the rookie actually dared to act tough against a powerful ward leader. Moving through the shadows, a guy gets the news that Amamori rejected the big boss offer without hesitation. Inside the cafeteria, a prisoner wonders why everyone is making such a fuss about the kid winning a fight. Looking surprised, a scarred inmate admits he thought the weak crybaby would lose in just 1 second. Standing tall, the mysterious dark-haired man realizes that defeating a leader is actually a massive achievement. Down the long prison corridor, the protagonist hears a loud voice calling his name from behind. Turning around, he sees a tall stranger approaching while a guard follows closely right behind him. Facing the newcomer, the boy listens as the man explains that this is the first time they meet in person. While lighting a cigarette, the tall guy introduces himself as Naruze Koichi, the famous East War leader. Bright light shines over the facility while the day continues to get more intense for everyone inside. Behind the iron bars, the quiet hero continues his walk while thinking about everything happening lately. Putting a hand on his chin, the student wonders what kind of trouble he got himself into this time. Suddenly he crashes into a massive wall of muscle and lets out a small groan of pain from the impact. Quickly, the young fighter apologizes even though he feels a strange and heavy vibe in the air. Showing a creepy smile, a dangerous-looking man says he is happy to finally find his target at last. Looking up with a calm face, the main character asks if something is wrong while facing a mysterious group. Suddenly, a blonde man shouts about his attitude and introduces the person beside him as the boss of the North Ward. Worry fills the protagonist as he wonders if this new chief is being controlled by his old enemy. Smiling calmly, the villain explains that the guy beaten earlier was actually one of his own followers. This leader tells the young man not to expect a fair fight because he has no intention of getting his hands dirty. With a simple command, the boss orders his 2 strongest guards to give the hero a lesson he won't forget. Stepping back, the fighter prepares for the impact as a massive fist flies toward his face at high speed. Trying his best to defend against 2 opponents at once, the boy blocks a heavy blow from the side. A loud sound echoes through the hall when a powerful strike lands right against the hero's arms. Gritting his teeth, the young man realizes that these enemies are much stronger than the ones he fought before. Despite his efforts, one goon finds an opening and lands a clean hit on his stomach while he is distracted. Moving like shadows, the 2 thugs continue their assault from both sides to keep the main character off balance. Another punch catches the student on the chin and sends a shock through his body while he struggles to stand firm. Blood drips from his mouth as the protagonist tries to find a way out of this dangerous situation. Finishing the combo, one of the guards delivers a brutal kick that pushes the fighter back with incredible force. Facing a tough situation, the young man realizes things are going south while a big guy prepares to strike him. Suddenly, a heavy blow lands right on his face and sends him flying back with a lot of force. Falling to the cold floor, the hero bleeds from his nose while a tall figure stands over his weak body. Looking down with a smug face, the leader mocks him for losing against 2 simple henchmen in this dark hallway. While the protagonist struggles to breathe, the enemy says that beating the previous room leader meant nothing at all. Claiming to be a very kind person, the bully explains that he never forgets when someone makes him look bad. With a creepy smile, the antagonist says it is only fair for the main character to suffer for his past actions. Still pinned down, the dark-haired boy looks up and sees the danger getting closer as his energy fades away. Walking away, the boss tells his goons to have fun while the poor fighter stays trapped with the mean bullies. Standing alone later, the boy realizes the power gap is huge since he only knows how to fight 1 person at a time. Looking down at the ground, the warrior wonders if becoming the strongest person is actually impossible for him now. Moving through the prison, the scene changes to a different area as the tired fighter tries to find his way back. Wiping the blood from his mouth, the teenager enters the room while trying to keep his dignity after the beating. Noticing his arrival, another prisoner watches him closely, but nobody says a single word to the injured newcomer. Finally reaching the bunks, the protagonist sees the rest of the group waiting in the shadows of the cramped cell. The man sits alone on the floor while wrapped in a blanket and seems to be hiding from everyone around him. Watching the scene, the main character thinks he should probably stop because the guy has a lot of pride left. Nearby, some sketchy dudes start smirking as they plan to cause some serious trouble for the poor fellow. One bully calls out number 5351 and demands that he gets off the ground right now. He claims he needs to use the restroom and suggests that the prisoner knows exactly what he has to do next. This makes the sitting man look incredibly angry as he glares up with a face full of pure hatred and rage. Without any warning, the jerk strikes him while asking who he thinks he is talking to in such a disrespectful way. The mean guy smiles and says that being a commoner means he has to follow these low orders every single day. Another long-haired student joins the mockery and calls the victim total trash while everyone else just watches. Trembling with frustration, the man on the floor grinds his teeth because he cannot stand being treated like an object. His hand slams against the hard surface as he tries to contain the massive amount of anger building up inside him. The bully forces him to act like a chair and laughs while threatening to kill him if he loses his balance. Finally, the protagonist cannot stay quiet anymore, so he speaks up and tells the group to stop the bullying right now. Moving fast, the hero reaches out and grabs the attacker by the shoulder to make sure the message is understood. He stands his ground and declares that the abuse ends today since everyone should just worry about their own lives. Ignoring the old ways, the protagonist tells the long-haired man that those rules are basically dead now. Declaring himself the new leader of the room, the young male says he will decide how things work from now on. By challenging them directly, the warrior tells the group to use force if they have a problem with his order. Behind him, the other cellmates look totally shocked because they never expected such a bold and risky move. With a bitter look, the quiet peer stays silent while feeling pretty annoyed by this sudden change of power. Suddenly, a huge bully stands over the victim while calling his name to continue the cycle of pain in the area. In a fit of rage, the defeated rival says he hates being pitted and would rather just be finished off for good. Desperately, he insists that he will be the one laughing when everything finally comes to a closing point. While stepping on the poor fellow, the bully laughs as the fighter watches the scene with a very cold look. Disappointed by the mess, the main character feels frustrated since nobody seems to follow his lead easily. At the infirmary door, the sign shows that the story moved to a quiet place where people go to recover. Hitting the punching bag with all his strength, the hero starts training to become even more powerful and fast. Deeply confused by the situation, he keeps throwing heavy punches while sweat runs down his face in the gym. Remembering what the other man said about rotten laws, he realizes that everyone is just trying to survive. Angrily, he wonders why nobody can understand his goal of making this place better for every single person. Training alone in the room, the young man continues his workout until a woman appears at the door. Turning his head with a surprised look, the fighter calls out to Dr. Kanda as she walks closer to him. Handing over a clean towel, she mentions that another person is busy and asks why he seems so annoyed right now. Watching the heavy bag swing back and forth, the warrior thinks about the conversation they just had. Putting the cloth around his neck, the boy admits he just doesn't get why things have to be this way for everyone. Walking behind him, the doctor explains that most people can't accept change because they are used to their own reality. Placing a hand on his shoulder, she tells him to keep fighting because only a leader can actually make a difference. Determined to improve, the protagonist says he must work 1,000 times harder even if his teacher is away. Looking at him with curiosity, the woman asks what he wants to learn and he mentions fighting many enemies at once. Smiling at the request, she simply says the best way to handle a crowd is to run and let them chase him. Moving like a flash, she explains that runners should wait for an opening and then hit a vital spot on the target. Barely reacting to her speed, the student feels the pressure of her hand as she gets very close to his face. Sunlight streams through the barred window while the two of them stand in the quiet training room together. Sweat drips down his face while he realizes just how fast this woman really is during her demonstration. Grabbing his shirt firmly, she reminds him that she warned him about how dangerous things can get in a real fight. The lady smiles while saying she is not just some normal doctor. Touching his shoulder, she reminds him that work is starting soon and he should not be late. She wishes him good luck, calling him the new room leader before he leaves. Sweeping the floor with a mop, the daily labor begins in the large facility. Inside this reformatory, the inmates must perform group tasks alongside their roommates to earn rewards. Accumulating many points is the only way to get a family visit, so everyone stays focused. Management of these chores belongs to the overseer, who is the person the leader trusts the most. Known as the boss of the North Ward, this man goes by the name of Ishida Eiji. Standing before the group, the guard explains that if one person fails, then everyone loses their progress. Looking very serious, the main guy replies to the authority by saying yes, sir. Warning the prisoners, the officer tells them to stay active and avoid slacking off today. Walking through the hallway, the group heads toward their assigned area for the shift. Thinking about the future, the protagonist hopes to see his mother soon if he keeps this up. Whispering a warning, one inmate tells the others not to interfere with whatever the leader is planning. Suddenly, a heavy metal door opens with a loud sound as the next session begins. Watching from the shadows, the bullies confirm their plan is ready as the target finally shows up. Approaching the counter, the black-haired boy asks for a clean tray to begin his daily work. Reaching into the machine, the tall man pulls out a metal plate with a very suspicious smile. Handing it over, the worker mentions the tray is at 200 degrees because it just finished heating. Grabbing the handle, the protagonist tries to push his cart forward to move the heavy items. Suddenly the wheel snaps under the pressure while the plastic part breaks apart completely. Looking confused, the young man wonders why the metal cart won't move even a single inch. Reporting the issue, he asks for a replacement, but the mean guy tells him to carry it alone. Turning to another worker, the student asks if he can put his things on that empty cart nearby. Picking his nose, the jerk claims nothing else can fit on his tray even though it looks empty. Mocking him, the ponytail guy asks if he is scared of a little heat and calls him disappointing. Gritting his teeth, the boy realizes these guys are bullying him on purpose and feels very angry. Losing his patience, the hero grabs the loudmouth by his shirt while looking ready to fight. Panicking, the others tell him to stop because this fight will make them lose all their points. Shouting for help, the bully yells that Amamori is losing his mind and becoming violent now. Suddenly a group of tough guys surrounds the protagonist and asks if he really thinks he can cause trouble here. Looking around, the dark-haired boy wonders where the prison guards went while he holds onto a random guy. Laughing loudly, the big bully explains that the guards are on a break and it is just them alone in this room. Realizing he is in deep trouble, the young man thinks that he definitely cannot fight this many people at once. Pushing him away, the antagonist tells the kid he should have just behaved since the very beginning. Reaching out with a massive hand, the leader of the group prepares to grab the protagonist by his hair. Slamming his head onto the table, the impact makes a loud noise as the boy is forced down by the strong man. Grinning meanly, the bully says the cart is broken so the student must carry the heavy food box himself. Showing the empty metal trays inside the dark container, it seems like a very difficult task to finish alone. Shouting at him to move faster, the criminal warns that the boy will be in big trouble if he does not hurry up. Gripping the edge of the heavy box with his fingers, the protagonist tries to find the strength to lift it. Sweating from the intense pressure, the kid looks very stressed as he tries to endure the constant bullying. Walking slowly through the hallway, the main character struggles with the weight while the others laugh at him. Arriving finally at the cafeteria door, the sign shows that they have reached the destination. Dropping the heavy metal box onto the floor, the loud sound echoes through the room as the task is over. Delivering the goods, the worker receives thanks for all his hard effort. Suddenly the co-worker notices strange marks on the hands and looks very surprised. Shouting to the guard, he says that his friend has burns and needs to go to the medical room. Without much care, the guard simply waves his hand to let them pass through. Walking down the long hallway, the two men seem to be heading somewhere else. Noticing the freezer room sign, the dark-haired guy starts to get a bit suspicious about the path. Stopping in his tracks, the other man turns around with a very strange look on his face. Confused by the situation, the worker asks what the plan is since they are going the wrong way. Showing his true colors, the man says he is actually going to give his companion a special treatment. Claiming to follow orders from a boss named Ishida, the man tells the victim to just give up. Even though one guy thinks this is too much, the big goon warns him not to question their leader. With a scary smile, the bully asks if the long-haired guy also wants to experience some pain. Looking at the screen that shows 60 degrees below zero, the bully tells him to stay quiet. Trying to escape, the victim screams for them to let go as he is dragged into the cold room. Telling him to stop complaining, the man says that no guards ever come to such a freezing place. Suddenly a valve gets turned while someone mentions a special gift from a guy named Ishida. Standing behind him, those thugs hold the victim tight so he cannot escape the steam. Forcing his arm down, they make him touch the burning pipe because they want him to suffer. Gritting his teeth, the young man realizes how stupid he was for being so weak before. Smiling like villains, these two bullies think that only brute strength matters in this place. Shaking from the high temperature, the protagonist thinks he just has to take this cruel treatment. Knowing that he might not survive, the boy feels the heat burning through his skin. Screaming out loud, he remembers all the effort he put in just to end up in this state. Looking up with pure anger, he asks himself why he should keep taking this abuse from them. Clenching his injured hand, the warrior decides to fight back regardless of the massive danger. Throwing a powerful punch, the hero vows to keep on struggling until his very last breath.
Red liquid drops onto the cold floor while the room remains quiet after the sudden impact. Panting heavily, the young fighter stands over his fallen enemy who just crashed against the hard concrete. Screaming in pure rage, the blonde leader vows to crush the boy for causing such a huge mess. Surrounded by many enemies, the protagonist remembers the important words of the doctor to find a way out. Thinking back, the lady explained that the best strategy is often to run away and lure the target. Moving like a flash, the student avoids a massive punch because his opponent left himself totally wide open. Glaring with a cold gaze, the hero focuses on a vital spot to end the struggle with one final move. Delivering a powerful finishing blow, the black-haired warrior sends the bully flying backward through the air. Suddenly, a tall officer appears near the door while watching the chaos unfolding in the prison hallway. Shouting at the top of his lungs, the guard asks what they are doing while approaching the group quickly. Ending the fight, the authority orders everyone to stop because it is finally time for their daily labor. Warning the inmates, the man says that any more noise will result in losing all their merit points today. Looking frustrated, the muscular thug curses his luck while staring at the floor in total silence. Walking away, the rival promises that things will be very different when they meet again in the future. Heading toward the work area, the group of prisoners moves slowly while the tension remains in the air. Realizing he only survived the trap because a guard intervened, the boy feels lucky to be alive right now. Thinking about his enemy, the boy knows Ishida is far more dangerous and cunning than the previous bullies. Staring at his stained hands, the fighter wonders what kind of evil plan the villain will try to use next time. Placing a hand on his shoulder, a stranger explains that there are other ways to avoid being bullied in here. Offering a safe path, the East District leader says he can protect the young man from any future attacks. Sweating from the pressure, the protagonist asks himself what he should actually do to stay alive in this hell. During the intense training sessions, the mentor shouts for the boy to raise his legs much higher than before. Lunging forward with a powerful kick, the teacher sends the trainee crashing onto the hard floor once again. Looking down at the fallen student, the master notices he is distracted and asks if something happened today. Breathing heavily, the young man apologizes while his body feels completely exhausted from the constant effort. Examining the official list, someone uses a red pen to cross out the name of the boy from the records. Shouting at the guard, the teenager demands to know why his meeting was cancelled because of the low points. With a cold expression, the staff member says that hard work is the only way to see his family ever again. Wondering if his weakness caused this problem, the boy pushes his body even harder while sweat drips off him. Crossing his arms, the expert fighter says the student looks totally pathetic and unbearable to watch right now. Kojo reminds the young student that he actually possesses a very powerful weapon hidden inside his soul. This weapon is a strong will which refuses to lose against anyone regardless of how many enemies appear. While the boy lacks the speed of a leopard or the power of a bear, his sheer grit will transform him into a wolf. Placing a hand on the teenager's shoulder, the mentor offers some comfort while his pupil stays focused on the goal. The experienced fighter explains that hard work is always rewarded and the results will surely come someday soon. By becoming stronger, the protagonist will finally be able to meet the mother he wants to protect more than anything. Clenching his bandaged fist against the cold floor, the trainee feels a sudden burst of energy and determination. Standing up with a fierce look, the main character realizes that getting stronger is the only way to survive this hell. Looking toward his teacher, the student asks to continue the training as they prepare for another round of exercise. After wrapping his hands, the fighter prepares a boxing stance while vowing to reach the top of the prison hierarchy. Suddenly, loud crashing noises echo through the metal bars as someone tries to break into the restricted area. Sweating from the stress, the bald man complains about Ishida and the clever tricks being used to manipulate the situation. Gritting his teeth with hatred, the giant realizes that even the main boss is happy with the unpleasant events. Rushing toward the freezer room, the guards make a lot of noise while the mist escapes through the open doorway. Keeping a very sharp focus, the protagonist reminds himself that assessing the situation is the only way to win a fight. Thinking about how he was humiliated by Ishida, the big bald guy decides he needs to punch someone to feel better. Running down the hallway with a mean face, he believes that raw power is the only thing that truly matters here. Suddenly, the brute finds the protagonist standing around the corner while looking very calm and quiet today. Smiling like a jerk, the giant asks if the new room leader is actually enjoying himself in this dangerous place. Showing a dark and serious look, the boy stares back as if he doesn't care about the muscular bully at all. Without saying a single word, the student simply walks past while bumping hard into the big guy's shoulder. Exploding with pure rage, the attacker screams because he hates being ignored by someone he considers a loser. Turning his anger toward another inmate, he lands a heavy hit because he hates hearing that specific name out loud. Looking like a total monster, the bald fighter vows to prove that he is more competent than anyone else in the ward. Keeping a cold profile, the main character prepares himself since he knows a real battle is finally about to begin. A massive punch flies through the air, but the young man manages to block the heavy strike with his bandaged arms. Gritting his teeth, the boy feels a huge vibration and realizes the strength of his enemy is actually insane. Realizing he cannot win by just defending, the hero knows he must start his own counter-attack right now to survive. Remembering the advice from his mentor, he decides to aim for the lower jaw to end this struggle as fast as possible. Sliding his foot across the floor, the trainee prepares to dash forward and deliver a powerful finishing move now. Launching a powerful upward strike, the protagonist connects with the giant's chin to keep the momentum going. Thinking about his next move, the young man realizes he cannot afford to give his enemy even a single opening to hit back. Swinging with all his might, the student misses the target while the massive brute barely manages to avoid the heavy blow. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the hero feels annoyed because his planned attack didn't land exactly where he wanted. Suddenly, a massive hand catches his arm while the muscular bully shows a wicked smile because he caught the boy at last. Delivering a brutal hit, the giant strikes the teenager hard while a red mist fills the air from the sudden impact. Stumbling backward, the protagonist clutches his chest and struggles to stay standing after taking the heavy damage. Wiping blood from his mouth, the brave kid mocks the giant by asking if that was really the best he could do in this duel. Sliding his foot across the cold floor, the fighter prepares for another round while focusing on his internal breathing. Moving like a blur, the black-haired boy goes low to launch a sudden attack that the big man didn't see coming at all. Slamming his bandaged palm against the ground, the hero uses the force to regain his balance and pivot for a counter. Hitting the target with precision, the student aims for the enemy's knee because he remembers the lesson about vital spots. Crashing down to the floor, the muscular titan loses his balance while the pain from the leg injury becomes unbearable. Observing the reaction, the protagonist wonders if the leg is truly the weak point he needs to exploit to win this fight. Looking shocked, the bald bully wonders if he actually made a huge mistake by taking the small kids so lightly today. The bald leader screams for his minions to finish the boy while his face twists with pure hatred. Rushing into the fight, the young hero finds himself surrounded by 3 angry attackers in the narrow hallway. One of the thugs launches a heavy fist towards the kid while the background blurs from the intense speed of the punch. Raising his arms just in time, the protagonist blocks a massive strike from the bald giant while gritting his teeth. Countering with a powerful kick, the student manages to push the big guy back while trying to find a way to escape. Breathing heavily and covered in blood, the boy realizes that fighting so many people at once is becoming impossible. Suddenly, his eyes shift to the side as he notices a small detail that might just save his life in this moment. Spotting a pair of slightly open blue doors, the hero decides that running inside is his only chance to survive. Sprinting away as fast as possible, the young man leads the group of bullies on a chase through the dark corridor. Looking absolutely furious, the bald leader asks the brat if he really thinks he can outrun them in this building. Slamming the door shut behind him, the teenager enters a mysterious room while trying to hide from the dangerous thugs. Smirking like a villain, the big guy suggests they play a game of hide and seek because he enjoys hunting his prey. With a creepy smile, the antagonist warns that getting caught means the game is over and things will end very badly. Stepping softly on the cold floor, the bully moves through the shadows while searching for the hidden student. Entering the dark area, the giant calls out to the main character while the atmosphere becomes cold and scary. Looking completely shocked, the bald giant can barely believe what is happening right now in this brutal fight. Suddenly, a heavy strike lands with a loud sound while the atmosphere becomes even more intense for everyone. Moving like a flash, the protagonist delivers a powerful kick that sends the big guy stumbling backward. Launching himself through the air, the young fighter shows off the results of his secret and hellish training. Hurting from the impact, the brute calls the boy a jerk while someone realizes this situation is getting very bad. Gasping for air, the massive bully tries to stay on his feet even though his body is reaching its absolute limit. Slamming the heavy metal door shut, the hero decides to end this struggle once and for all right now. Outside the room, a screen shows the temperature dropping to -150 degrees in that cold hell. While laughing in the yard, a gossip tells the story of how the leader got trapped inside that freezing space. Walking across the courtyard, a group of tough guys approaches while the tension between the factions keeps rising. With a mocking grin, the freckled man asks the rivals if they finally managed to thaw out after the incident. Burning with pure rage, the muscular brawler grits his teeth because he cannot stand being insulted like that. Shouting loudly, he blames the other group for creeping around their backs and treating them like they aren't brothers. Observing the scene, 2 inmates mention that the current faction is getting way too cocky after that specific event. Under the dark night sky, the prison stays quiet while the shadow of a new war begins to loom over the building. Many students run through the hallway while the sound of footsteps echoes against the cold stone floor. Moving quickly, a guy tells his friend they must hurry up or they won't arrive at the scene on time. Suddenly, a strong hand grabs a shoulder from behind and stops the walker from moving any further. Looking surprised, the main character asks what is happening while someone tells him to just get out of the way. Watching the person run toward the cells, the protagonist wonders if they are heading to his specific room right now. Other inmates gather around the corridor while showing expressions of pure shock and curiosity about the commotion. Pushing through the crowd, the tattooed leader demands space and claims his position as the top dog of the area. Staring with a cold gaze, the young hero stays silent while processing the heavy atmosphere in the hallway. Crouched on the floor, the former room leader looks completely broken and traumatized after a brutal encounter. Explaining the mess, the boss says Nagao took his anger out on this poor guy because he couldn't find the hero. Looking directly at the protagonist, the tattooed man asks for the answer to the deal he offered the other day. Pointing at the victim, the leader says that laziness on guard duty is what pushed the bully over the edge. Showing a creepy smile, the fallen man looks like he lost his mind because he was told he has no more use. Speaking about reality, the tall guy says fear and despair turn people into monsters when they lose their status. Arriving with weapons, the guards tell everyone the show is over and prepare to take the injured inmate away. Stuttering a few words, the man looks completely lost and terrified while staring at the floor. Screaming that it was not on purpose, the poor guy tries to defend himself from the aggressive guards. Looking very angry, the lead officer orders his team to restrain the prisoner as fast as possible. Trembling with fear, the inmate begs them to stop because he claims he can actually prove his innocence. Suddenly, the man falls to his knees while everyone watches the tragic scene unfolding in the hallway. Thick red liquid starts dripping down his neck as the situation takes a very dark and painful turn for him. Showing a scary face, the prisoner laughs while explaining that he really lost his sight just like he said. Panicking, the guard calls for a hospital while the other students look away in total shock and disgust. Standing nearby, the protagonist asks why the real villain is not being punished for this terrible mess. Neruz explains that everyone wants power, but the fall from the top is always extremely miserable and sad. Offering a deal, the leader says the boy can see his family if he joins the East Ward right now. Looking serious, the hero wonders what will happen to his life after the protection finally runs out. Thinking about his mother, the young man asks himself how he can survive if he stays weak and useless. Refusing the easy offer, the fighter declares that he needs more power instead of just a temporary peace. Smirking at the bold answer, the tattooed leader seems quite impressed by the student's strong resolve. Warning the protagonist about Nagao, the tattooed man says he will gladly welcome any challenge from that angry enemy. Walking away with a smirk, the mysterious fighter invites the boy to visit the East Ward whenever he feels like it. Thus, when the next day finally arrives, everyone gathers in the yard to enjoy their precious free time under the sun. Suddenly, the prison guard shouts that the break is officially over and orders the South Ward to return to their rooms. Looking quite annoyed, the bald giant notices a specific person in the crowd and wonders if Shibara is also around. Walking past the fence, the South Ward boss named Kai Shibara appears and becomes the perfect target for a brutal fight. Trying to stop the conflict, a friend reminds the big guy about the warnings from the head of the whole facility. Showing a scary expression, the brute declares that he doesn't care about anyone else as long as it is not Amamori. Moving his feet across the dirt, the muscular prisoner lets out a grunt while preparing to cause some massive trouble. Gritting his teeth with rage, the giant vows to crush his rival today so nobody can ever make a fool of him again. Walking through the yard, a massive bald guy stands between two rivals while the air feels very heavy and tense. Suddenly, the giant steps on a shoe while acting like it was just a simple accident to start some trouble. Looking very annoyed, the long-haired student asks what is going on while glaring at the bully with a cold stare. Screaming loudly, the bald monster complains about some dirt on his sneakers because he wants a reason to fight. With a serious face, the blue-jacketed boy says he has no intention of getting involved in such a stupid provocation. Showing a wicked smile, the attacker says he actually wants a fight and warns the teenager not to think of running. Launching a massive punch, the brute hits the student right in the face and sends him stumbling back from the impact. Covering his face, the victim hears a friend shouting that the violence should stop before things get even worse. Mocking the situation, the giant calls this special training and promises to continue until the boy is finally gone. Unexpectedly, the young man delivers a powerful counter-strike to the jaw while everyone watches the scene in shock. Bleeding from his nose, the bully looks completely stunned because he never expected a weakling to hit him back. Landing another heavy blow, the fighter strikes the monster's chest to show that he is not afraid of the physical pain. Exploding with rage, the villain calls his opponent a cowardly piece of garbage while his eyes look truly demonic. Suddenly, a strong hand grabs the brute from behind to stop the assault while a new person enters the chaotic scene. Moving with insane speed, the newcomer throws the giant across the yard while the crowd stays quiet from the surprise. A heavy boot steps on the head of a fallen inmate as the sound of the impact echoes through the entire yard. With a bloody smile, the muscular giant asks if there are only weaklings left in the South District today. Gritting his teeth, the defeated fighter refuses to accept the mockery while his friends watch in total shock. Everyone gets fired up and prepares to show the real power of their group to the arrogant intruder right now. Panicking, the prison guards rush toward the scene while shouting for all the inmates to stay back immediately. Chaos erupts in the middle of the yard as dozens of prisoners join the massive brawl under the bright sun. Showing a terrifying expression, the bald brute laughs because things are finally starting to get exciting. Suddenly, a loud alarm begins to ring from the speakers and cuts through the noise of the ongoing struggle. Deep inside the facility assigned for the waste disposal area hides a secret that nobody should ever see. Inside the restricted room, several people work with strange chemicals while the alarm keeps buzzing overhead. A massive man with a tattooed chest commands everyone to stop what they are doing with a very cold voice. Looking serious, the leader tells his subordinate to go see what is happening in the other ward right now. Hearing the loud noise, the young fighter pauses his training while his eyes show a lot of deep concern. Telling his friend he will check it out, the hero prepares to face whatever danger is coming his way soon. High up on the fence, the speaker continues to blare while dark clouds gather over the prison walls. Several inmates lie defeated on the dusty floor after a brutal encounter that left everyone in a state of shock. Flying through the air, a massive shirtless prisoner lunges at his rival while screaming for him to just drop dead. Suddenly, a heavy fist connects with the face of the target and sends red stains flying everywhere across the yard. Standing tall, the muscular giant mocks his opponent by calling him a total weakling who cannot even fight back. Wiping the mess from his mouth, the injured warrior looks completely enraged while staring at the beast in front of him. Guards quickly rush to the scene while shouting for the idiots to stop the violence before things get even worse. Ordering everyone to the ground, the officers use force to restrain the aggressive thugs and restore order today. Laughing like a total maniac, the bald villain seems to enjoy the chaos while the area becomes covered in red mist. Moving down the quiet hallway, we see a pair of shoes heading toward a very important meeting between two leaders. Approaching the dark-haired fighter, the tattooed boss asks if he is here to talk about the protagonist again. Looking serious, the East Chief warns that their current plan is way too dangerous to involve the young student. Showing a cold expression, the mentor replies that everything happening to the kid was his own personal choice. Glancing back, the tattooed man asks if this risky situation is actually what the instructor wants as well. Stretching his arm, the superior says he understands the feeling but warns him not to drag others into the mess. Walking away into the shadows, the guy tells his friend not to let the boy follow such a dark and painful path. Light filters through the dark bars of the storage room while a new secret session is about to begin in the shadows. Grunting with effort, the young fighter throws a fast punch while continuing his intense and daily secret training. Looking impressed, the teacher mentions how much confidence the boy gained after taking down that huge and scary bully. Sweat drips as the student explains that the gap between them is still massive and he needs more practice to win. Warning about the enemy's rage, the mentor hears that hiding will only make the situation much worse for him later on. Smiling slightly, the protagonist knows that becoming stronger is the only way to safeguard those he truly cares about. Staring at his pupil, the older man wonders if this kid is actually just a total fool or very brave in this hell. Standing by the heavy bag, the instructor announces they will start a special routine designed for the next big battle. Ready for the challenge, the hero agrees while his coach says that the hellish workout begins early tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, at a different part of the facility, a cold sign shows the entrance to the solitary confinement cells nearby. Tied up and kneeling on the floor, a massive prisoner struggles against his restraints while trapped in the dark room. Glaring with annoyance, the guard tells the villain that his lack of control over others is causing too many problems. Standing over the rival, the officer warns that any more trouble will lead to a much harsher punishment very soon. Screaming in a fit of rage, the bald giant asks why he is the only person being treated like a real criminal today. Suddenly, a tattooed man yells for everyone to shut up while his face shows a look of pure aggression and raw power. Looking down at the floor, the bald guy seems to be in a lot of trouble right now while someone watches from the shadows. Standing tall, the officer says if it were up to him, he would make sure that nobody ever causes any trouble again. Moving closer to the other man, the guard asks if he agrees with the harsh plan to keep the order inside the facility. Walking away, the official orders the prisoner to apologize to Kureha since the director wants peace between them. A loud metallic sound echoes through the dark hallway as the heavy door finally closes behind the departing man. Gritting his teeth with pure rage, the muscular man named Nagao looks like he is about to lose control very soon. Cracking his knuckles, the powerful leader says that some people definitely need some serious re-education today. Inside the South District at night, a student mentions that there is no way Kanemoto will ever forgive the failure. Smiling with a bandaged face, the guy calls his rival an idiot who snapped the moment things got a bit intense. Looking very sinister, the man explains that crushing the bodyguard will finally remove him from the entire picture. Grinning like a total villain, the long-haired fighter realizes that this is the perfect chance they finally wanted. Dropping onto the cold concrete, some red liquid splashes while the sound of heavy breathing fills the empty room. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the bald giant claims he was only trying to protect his group's reputation. Landing a massive punch, the boss tells him to shut up while the impact sends a shock through the whole area. Kicking the man on the floor, the leader complains about being humiliated because of such a useless and weak subordinate. Standing over the fallen body, the tattooed leader looks down while saying he is already tired of this mess. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and touches the boss' shoulder to get his attention before things get even worse. Warning his superior, the guy says that ending the life of the person on the floor will only bring a lot of trouble. Smiling calmly, the scarred man offers to apologize so his leader won't have to bow to a rival like Kureha. Showing a very creepy expression, the ally tells the tall man not to worry because he has a perfect plan in mind. Looking quite frustrated, the main boss wonders if the direct approach is actually the right choice for today. Moving his mouth into a smirk, the strategist mentions that controlling a beast like Nagao is a very difficult task. Sweating from the pressure, the subordinate asks if the rookie student is truly becoming more powerful each day. Walking together, the duo decides to let the protagonist grow even more until he is ready for the final clash. Wishing for total destruction, the villain hopes that both fighters will end up taking each other down forever. Planning to stay clean, the boss realizes he can just act like he knows nothing if a serious investigation starts. Outside the facility, the sky turns orange while the sun begins to set over the quiet and gloomy concrete walls. Training hard in the room, the young man explains that his enemy uses raw power as his greatest and only weapon. Focusing his eyes, the fighter realizes that speed and observation are the only keys to finding a secret weakness. Watching the giant every single moment, the hero studies how the brute walks and eats even when he is just breathing. Resting with his arms crossed, the expert explains that even the smallest detail can become a key to achieve a final victory. Stepping onto a platform, the fighter prepares his body for a session that will focus on finding the enemy's hidden weak spots. Pointing at a medical model, the doctor explains that a massive body like Nagao's puts a lot of strain on his heart and lungs. Moving around the room, the trainee hears that draining the opponent's stamina is the best way to make his power drop quickly. Provoking the enemy is a smart move because an angry fighter leaves many openings for a perfectly timed counter-attack. Since the target is very heavy, his balance is not stable and he cannot change his movements fast enough during a struggle. Recalling a past fight, the young man realizes that the lower body was indeed a major weakness for that muscular bully. Looking serious, the lady doctor assures him that he can actually win this dangerous battle by using this specific method. Taking several hits, the boy learns how to withstand at least 3 attacks so he can stay standing until the very end. Getting hit by a massive fist, the student realizes that being knocked out makes all his previous hard work meaningless. Panting heavily on the cold floor, the exhausted warrior catches his breath while a woman approaches him with a calm walk. While sweat drips from his face, the protagonist maintains a sharp gaze because his determination is stronger than ever. Helping him stand up, the doctor says that stopping the master's attacks means he is finally ready to beat the main villain. Checking a report, the tall mentor mentions that the enemy is in solitary for half a month, which is a perfect golden chance. Gritting his teeth, the fighter knows that working harder every day is the only way to increase his chances of winning soon. Outside the quiet facility, the sun shines on the walls while everything remains calm for now. Walking through the hallway, the tall man watches as a staff member moves toward a nearby door. Entering the room, the mysterious fighter stands tall while wearing his usual brown jacket. Looking very surprised, the man asks what is happening because he did not expect this sudden news. Standing in the back, the doctor talks to the fighter while telling the younger boy to get some rest. Suddenly, a loud sound echoes through the corridor as a heavy door slams shut with a lot of force. Wondering about the situation, the lady asks if it is really okay to keep that specific photo hidden. Mentioning his past, the woman notes that things are very different from when he asked about his sister. Looking away with a cold gaze, the warrior claims that having no emotions is better for a real fight. Calling him selfish, the doctor explains that he should not force his own dark path onto others. High above the prison, the full moon shines through the window while the night remains very quiet. Recalling the conversation, the man thinks about his ego and how his choices might affect his pupil. During a past memory, a younger version of the hero protects a girl after winning a brutal alleyway fight. Walking into the darkness, the mysterious figure in the long coat leaves the scene without looking back. Reaching out with a firm grip, a hand grabs the fabric of the jacket to stop the person from moving. Looking at his teacher, the young boy asks how he can become truly powerful like those legendary warriors. Observing the trainee, the mysterious man stays silent for a moment before deciding to give a very serious answer. Standing tall, the mentor promises to make him the best but warns that he must leave his family behind for now. Recalling a distant memory, the teacher claims that having too many feelings will only stop a person from growing. With a lot of resolve, the student reaches out to accept the harsh terms of this secret training session. Looking away, the expert thinks that the kid is actually being very selfish for wanting such a dangerous life. Inside the quiet storage room, the shelves are filled with supplies while the two of them continue their talk. Pulling a small letter from his pocket, the dark-haired man tells the youth to take it and look at the contents. Staring at the white paper, the protagonist wonders what kind of information is hidden inside that message. Seeing a picture of his mother working at a food stall, the boy learns that she is safe and doing very well today. Tears start to form because the teenager misses his parent more than anything else in this world right now. Grabbing the mentor's arm with both of his own, the student shows his immense gratitude for the kind gesture. Yelling his thanks, the young fighter feels a sudden surge of hope after seeing his family is finally okay. Watching the two males from a distance, the female doctor realizes that the teacher is actually a very honest person. Beyond the barbed wire fences, the bright sky shows that a new day is starting for everyone inside the building. Pointing at a blackboard, the mentor explains that real combat is the only way to truly grow stronger in this hell. Selecting a specific phase, he notes that some guys act tough but are actually just cowards hiding behind others. Whenever he is about to lose a fight, this particular leader calls his many underlings to join the mess and help him. Because of these dirty tactics, the young fighter must prepare to face more than just one opponent at a single time. In the middle of the crowded yard, it becomes clear that winning against many enemies is essential for survival now. Slowly unbuttoning his shirt, the brave man prepares to handle the situation while showing his total confidence today. Standing tall with bandaged hands, the hero calls the group weaklings because he knows he can handle the entire team. Surrounded by 3 large enemies in the yard, the protagonist stays calm while the tension reaches a breaking point. Even though his shoulder is gripped tightly, the fighter feels the pain but refuses to back down from the struggle. Mocking his rival, the boss asks if the kid really thinks he can take on 3 men and laughs at the bold idea. With a cold look, the villain threatens to hurt the boy badly unless he admits defeat with those shameful words. Looking directly at his enemy, the hero repeats the word lost while a dark look appears behind his black hair. Suddenly, the hand on his shoulder is slapped away with a lot of force because the protagonist has reached his limit. Without any fear, the warrior claims he does not know that word and dares the bullies to show him how to give up. Upon hearing the challenge, the bald giant looks completely shocked and furious after being defied so directly. Screaming with pure rage, the massive giant lunges forward while promising to end the young fighter right now. Moving like a shadow, the teenager manages to dodge the heavy blow while another enemy stays down on the ground. Suddenly, a second attacker enters the fray by throwing a fast kick toward the distracted student. Reacting quickly, the protagonist avoids the incoming strike because his senses are becoming much sharper during the brawl. Gritting his teeth, the hero shows a face of pure determination because he refuses to lose this unfair match. Looking completely stunned, the big brute realizes that hitting the agile boy is actually much harder than he thought. Launching a counter, the kid prepares to strike back even though he is surrounded by these dangerous criminals. Breathing heavily, the young man stops for a second while sweat runs down his face from the intense pressure. Realizing that a third person is hiding nearby, the fighter tells himself to stay alert for another sudden move. Taking a direct hit to the face, the protagonist feels the power of the strike while some red drops fly into the air. Stumbling backward, the boy feels dizzy and realizes his vision is starting to get a little blurry from the impact. Clutching his head, the teenager struggles to stay conscious because the last blow was incredibly powerful and heavy. Scanning the area, the hero decides he must find their weak spots quickly so he can defeat them one after another. Observing the first goon, he notices the man only uses back fists, which makes his movements very easy to predict now. Identifying the others, the boy notes that one is fast with kicks while the bald giant loses his cool way too easily. Staring intensely with blood on his face, the boy realizes this is finally the moment he was waiting for. Prepared in a fight stance, the young man prepares to take on two massive enemies at once in the yard. Moving like a shadow, the protagonist ducks a high kick while his opponents struggle to keep up with his speed. Crashing into the bald giant, the fighter uses his whole body weight to launch a powerful tackle. With a creepy grin, the muscular beast shows that he actually enjoys the pain and the heat of this battle. Trapped between the attackers, the brave teen keeps his focus while the pressure in the area keeps rising. Jumping through the air, the hero delivers a brutal strike that sends shockwaves through the entire place. After shouting a warning, the bald man tells his partner not to lose focus during this intense struggle. Clutched in pain, the enemy covers his face while stumbling backward after taking a very heavy hit. Spotting the perfect opening, the warrior decides that now is the right time to finish this once and for all. Landing a massive stomp, the dark-haired boy crushes his opponent against the floor with incredible force. When the villain lets out a groan, he realizes that he underestimated the power of the young student. Showing his muscular back, the winner stands tall while the crowd watches his terrifying presence in silence. Delivering one final blow, the protagonist smashes his fist down to end the reign of the bald bully. Reaching out with his hand, a different prisoner yells that the fight is not over yet, but the student stays calm. Moving like a shadow, the young man avoids a sudden strike from his opponent while staying completely calm and focused. Suddenly, a massive guy lunges forward to deliver a heavy blow while the protagonist prepares to defend himself from the impact. Gritting his teeth with a serious look, the teenager realizes that he must use every trick learned during his hellish training. Launching a powerful strike, the hero hits his target directly in the chest as the force creates a loud sound across the yard. Stumbling back with a look of pure pain, the bully wonders how a small kid can possess such an overwhelming amount of power now. Standing nearby, the other inmates discuss the situation and realize the protagonist is much stronger than they initially heard. Clearly annoyed, the rival grits his teeth while promising to end the duel because he refuses to lose to a total rookie today. Preparing for a difficult moment, the young fighter watches as two enemies move at the same time to launch an assault. Attacking from both sides at once, the thugs believe that this simultaneous move will finally take down the brave student now. Following the advice of his mentor, the boy lowers his center of gravity to stabilize his body before the big impact happens. Stepping back with precision, the hero avoids the incoming hits while the mental text explains the importance of balance now. Driving a sharp elbow into the center of the enemy, the fighter aims to break their coordination as taught by his expert master. With a focused expression, the protagonist prepares his next move while the fallen bully groans on the floor in total agony. Landing a devastating punch, the young man hits his rival right on the jaw and sends him flying back with an incredible force. Standing victorious over his opponent, the hero shows everyone that he is no longer the weak kid who used to be bullied at school. Staring in total disbelief, the muscular prisoner realizes that things are not going according to his plan at all. Screaming with rage, the bald man rushes forward while declaring that he won't lose to someone he considers trash. Both fighters clash in the middle of the yard as their fists collide with a massive amount of force and noise. Guarding his face with bandaged hands, the hero acknowledges the incredible power coming from his aggressive opponent. Taking a wide stance, the villain prepares a heavy blow while the student notices a fatal flaw in his balance. Deciding on a new strategy, the young man prepares to exploit the opening that his enemy just created during the charge. Moving like a shadow, the protagonist tries to lure out an attack so he can find the perfect moment to counter. Swinging his arm with everything he has, the brute misses his target while the fighter dodges the dangerous strike. Seeing the opponent becoming unstable, the hero goes low to maintain his advantage during this intense prison duel. Striking with precision, the student aims for a weak point to end the battle with one single and powerful hit. Refusing to stop the assault, the main character continues to land blows to ensure the bully cannot recover at all. Without giving any opening, the warrior delivers another punch while the crowd watches the one-sided beating in shock. Winding up his arm for the final move, the teenager prepares to take down the leader once and for all right now. Dark birds fly across the gloomy sky while the sounds of the struggle finally begin to fade into the distance. Lying defeated on the cold ground, the previous boss stays still while red stains appear on the pavement around him. Standing over his fallen enemy, the young fighter achieves a complete victory while the crowd watches in total silence. Surprised by the scene, the other inmates stay shocked because they never expected to see such an incredible outcome today. Displaying a massive back, the hero leaves everyone wondering if this muscular man is actually the same weak kid as before. Over the next 14 days, the protagonist starts challenging every single room leader in the entire North District. Landing a massive blow, the fighter manages to achieve a total and complete victory against all of his powerful rivals. Standing tall among the fallen bodies, the young man wraps his bandages while looking like a true beast in the yard. Seeing his incredible power, the other inmates start cheering loudly for the boy and calling him the very best leader. Pointing at the hero, some guys claim that nobody in the North area is stronger than their new and impressive boss. Approaching with a friendly smile, a subordinate offers a fresh change of clothes and asks if the warrior needs a drink. Grinning widely, the follower says he can prepare anything the protagonist wants just to show his deep level of respect. Following closely behind, the guy offers a massage while promising to always bring clean laundry to the new champion. Despite his many wins, the black-haired teen thinks that struggling against simple room leaders is not enough for him. Glaring into the distance, the youth admits to himself that he is still way too weak to face the real monsters here. Because of these constant brawls, his name spreads across the facility and nobody calls him a loser since that day. However, the fighter realizes that gaining fame also brings a lot of new problems that could put his life in danger. Deep inside the main building, some influential people gather behind a closed door to discuss the recent events in secret. Sitting at the table, the long-haired boss asks about the status of Kanemono because he knows something big is happening. Laughing mockingly, the leader says that Nagao was beaten by the weaklings he hated and is now too ashamed to show his face. A man with a scar smiles while saying that the boss is surely worried about the fast progress of the young fighter. Looking serious, the pink-haired leader mentions that everyone will want the kid if he manages to defeat the giant bully. Tension fills the quiet room while the three powerful men continue their secret meeting away from any prying eyes. With a mocking grin, the long-haired guy notes that raining during a shipment shows a lack of awareness from the others. Another inmate replies that the weather changed suddenly and sometimes nature just acts in very unpredictable ways. Deciding to end the talk, the tattooed boss says they should start their own operation right now and prepares to move. Outside the massive gray building, the heavy rain continues to fall as dark clouds cover the entire prison area today. Holding bright flashlights, two guards walk through the dark corridors to check if everything is under control. Deep underground, the sewage treatment plant hides a secret area where illegal activities happen away from the light. Moving heavy boxes, the workers report that the illegal goods increased by 12% compared to the original plan. Grinning maliciously, the worker calls the producer a total genius since making this much of the stuff is quite a feat. Suddenly, the boss stops talking as he senses something strange and tells the group to wait before they continue. Reacting quickly, the leader signals his men to be quiet because he thinks someone might be watching them from the shadows. Dropping a heavy piece of equipment, the worker creates a small noise while his boots stay firmly on the flat ground. Standing together in the warehouse, the team stays alert and ready for any trouble while they finish the secret task. Standing nearby, the guard with the blue hat tells the tattooed boss that they must change the method and stay alert. Handing over a small white card, the officer explains that they will move the excess goods by ship later tonight. Looking quite skeptical, the tattooed leader asks if that specific task is actually the job of the rival group. While talking, the guard mentions that the director covered up a death to keep the higher-ups in the dark about the mess. Pointing his finger, the official promises to respond in kind if the boss does his absolute best to follow the new plan. Confidently, he confirms that the group will treat him well and that he won't be held responsible for what happens later. Suddenly, a loud sound echoes through the hallway as a heavy shoe stomps firmly against the cold concrete floor. Walking out of solitary confinement, the massive Nagao looks ready to go wild after being locked away for so long. Approaching the giant with a nervous smile, a smaller prisoner asks if the big man needs anything for his return today. Grinning with a very scary face, the brute says he actually wants the heads of the rival leaders right now. Walking down the hall, the legendary boss appears while the smaller guy begs for mercy and stays quiet in the shadows. Staring with a cold gaze, the leader notices the giant and simply mentions that the beast is finally out of his cell. After apologizing for all the trouble, the boss warns the muscular man to be much more careful from now on. Looking very angry, the bald inmate asks about the rookie because he thinks the kid is getting way too full of himself. Showing a mysterious smile, the long-haired leader suggests giving the boy a chance and pauses for a brief moment. Standing in the hallway, the man with the chest tattoo explains that there is a mission only the young boy can complete now. Suddenly, a loud sneeze echoes through the dark room while the protagonist struggles with his own health during the night. After approaching the student, the female doctor warns him not to catch a cold while things are getting so intense here. Smiling with confidence, the fighter mentions that the bully is likely spreading rumors about him at this very moment. Even though he stays quiet, the tall mentor listens as the lady explains that the boss will never let his reputation fall. While poking his face with a small tool, the medical expert asks the boy if he truly has a solid plan to survive the fight. Because he loves strategy, the narrator explains that the cunning Ishida is always planning his next move to win everything. During the final checkup, the doctor admits that a specific situation is starting to bother her quite a lot lately. Looking at the tragic image, we learn that the former room leader was found in a terrible state inside the cold prison cell. Lowering his head, the dark-haired man asks if the authorities are actually protecting the dangerous criminal named Kanemoto. Once she confirms the theory, the woman explains that the group will likely abandon the bully Nagao to save themselves now. Due to the recent crimes, the lady notes that the villain ended 2 lives, so nobody will stay by his side for long. Grabbing the edge of the table, the hero declares that he will take down both enemies if they try to protect each other. Since he is happy with the progress, the instructor says that he really likes the sudden burst of energy from his student. Letting out alongside, the doctor admits it is great to see the boy motivated even if the path ahead looks like hell. Looking serious, the doctor tells the young man not to push his body too far because he must stay in top shape. Standing in the dark, the protagonist thinks that his current level is still not enough to reach his goal. Adjusting his clothes, the fighter knows that even a tiny opening during a real match can be fatal for him. Sprinting through the room, the boy decides he cannot waste any more time and will train to his absolute limit. Showing his resolve, the muscular student prepares himself to face whatever challenges come next in this place. Taking a solid fighting stance, the hero shouts for his opponent to bring it on while he focuses his energy. Moving his feet with a lot of speed, the warrior begins a fast dash toward his next destination in the hallway. Looking quite worried, the silver-haired leader says that things are starting to look very bad for their group. Trembling with a lot of fear, the messenger holds a letter while his face shows how shocked he is by the news. Smiling with a very creepy expression, the boss asks if this is actually a challenge letter from the rookie. With a nasty grin, the villain stares at the paper while thinking that the young boy has a lot of courage. Laughing loudly, the antagonist tells Nagao that they are currently being looked down on by a mere beginner. Gritting his teeth with pure rage, the massive giant screams because that bastard is actually coming for him now. Walking through the crowded cafeteria, many inmates carry their food trays while whispers fill the entire room. Suddenly, a conversation starts because everyone is talking about the challenge the rookie issued to the boss. Pointing out the obvious, a man claims that nobody can ever beat the monstrous strength of the current leader. Even though the protagonist got stronger, another student says his level is still totally different from the top guy. Looking at a blank piece of paper, someone mentions there is no point in betting since the result is already clear. Mockingly, a jerk shouts that only a complete idiot would waste their money on a weakling like Amamori today. Slamming his hands onto the table, an angry prisoner stands up while the atmosphere becomes very heavy and tense. Staring with a fierce gaze, the long-haired room chief asks if someone just dared to insult his group in public. Down the cafeteria line, someone repeats that nobody thinks the kid will win and asks why they are fighting. Showing a face full of pure rage, the commander yells that he is right here and ready to defend his honor now. Reacting with a mocking smirk, a different inmate seems quite amused by the sudden drama unfolding in the area. Throwing a heavy bag of cash onto the desk, the loyal ally bets everything he has on the success of his student. During the night free time, the sound of footsteps echoes against the cold stone floor of the dark hallway. Running quickly toward the destination, two guys encourage each other to hurry because they are almost late. Finally, the protagonist appears with a very serious look as he opens the door and prepares for the big fight. Inside the dark room, a man smokes while hearing that Nagao already moved to the target location as planned. Smiling with a dark look, the silver-haired guy mentions that Nagao cannot see very well when the lights are low. Looking serious, the big boss wonders if they can actually manage to make both of the fighters fall today. Confirming the plan, the man says that while the rookie is not perfect, he is still strong enough to win this. Grinning like a monster, the bald giant prepares his muscles as he thinks about the brutal fight ahead of him. Moving in a large group, the inmates rush toward the big room because they want to witness the main event now. Pushing through the entrance, the students shout at each other while the excitement in the hall keeps growing. Raising his hands, a prisoner laughs while shouting that the betting odds are 1 to 25 for the rookie. Standing near the lockers, the young guard asks if leading the violent crowd alone is actually a good idea. Lighting a cigarette, the older officer explains that the inmates need to blow off some steam to avoid trouble. Striking the floor with his heavy baton, the guard creates a loud sound to get everyone's attention right now. Shouting at the top of his lungs, the man warns that anyone who interferes will be sent straight to solitary. Standing in the middle of the vast hall, the two rivals face each other while the crowd watches from the sides. Looking very angry, the bald brute tells the kid he will send him to hell for challenging his power today. Showing a calm expression, the hero starts to explain the secret reason why he chose this specific room for the duel. Looking truly demonic, the bald giant stands there while the hero thinks about how he must finally avenge his friend Masaki. Staying quiet, the young student prepares himself for the most dangerous encounter of his entire life inside the prison. Pointing his finger, the boy tells the monster that everyone will soon witness his truly pathetic state in this fight. Exploding with pure rage, the muscular beast grits his teeth because he cannot stand being insulted by a weak rookie. Lunging forward with a massive fist, the villain asks the kid if he is finally ready to meet his end today. Moving like a shadow, the teenager avoids a heavy swing that almost takes his head off while his senses stay sharp. Launching a fast counter, the protagonist hits the giant right in the middle of his body with a lot of force. Smiling meanly, the brute claims that the weak punch didn't even hurt a single bit because his muscles are too tough. Staring with a serious look, the fighter realizes that the opponent's frame is way too thick to break with simple hits. Suddenly, a massive hand catches the hero mid-strike while the villain prepares to finish the struggle once and for all. Trapped in a tight grip, the student realizes he made a huge mistake and struggles to pull his arm away from the beast. With a brutal impact, the giant slams the young man against the floor while the whole room shakes from the raw power. Coughing up blood on the ground, the hero understands that this level of strength is far beyond anything he imagined. Walking slowly toward his prey, the brute mocks the protagonist by asking if that was really all he could do in a duel. Wiping the mess from his face, the boy tries to focus even though his body is currently reaching its absolute limit. The massive giant screams because he can't believe a new guy actually dared to challenge his power today. Raising his arms just in time, the young fighter blocks a heavy strike while the impact echoes through the room. Using his insane strength, the brute launches a powerful kick that sends the protagonist stumbling back in pain. Grabbing the boy by his clothes, the muscular boss smiles while showing that he is on a completely different level. Delivering a brutal punch, the villain strikes the hero's face while red stains fly everywhere across the dark area. Breathing heavily, the teenager looks totally defeated and his eyes show how much damage he took from that hit. Watching from the side, a witness says that this situation is looking very bad for the brave newcomer right now. Standing in the shadows, the other leaders observe the brawl because they know the whole facility is watching. Explaining the tension, one man notes that a victory for the kid would change the balance of power in the prison. Looking at the mess on the wall, the spectators assume the challenger has no chance of winning this struggle. Clenching his fist, the bully holds the victim tightly to ensure there is no way for the young man to escape. Mocking the hero, the giant asks if he really thought he could get revenge by acting so weak in this fight. With a creepy smile, the big man mentions the name of the fallen friend Masaki just to provoke the student more. Gritting his teeth in pure rage, the protagonist screams because he cannot stand to hear that filthy mouth. Exploding with energy, the brave fighter strikes the villain while yelling for him to never speak that name again. The massive bully looks completely stunned while his white eyes show he is losing his grip on the battle. Looking very shocked, a nearby student wonders how the rookie managed to obtain such an incredible level of power. Gritting his teeth, the bald brute can barely believe that his target actually succeeded in landing such a heavy blow. Facing each other in the room, the two fighters prepare for the next round while the atmosphere becomes very heavy. Suddenly the lights flicker and die as the confused giant screams to find out who turned off the power right now. Because of the blackout, guards order everyone to stay still since the bathhouse is currently in total darkness. Grabbing his radio, an officer announces that the repair team is coming while they send a guard to check the scene. Whispering in the dark, the other inmates wonder if the duel is over or if the boy just decided to run away. Even without any light, the protagonist stays calm while the narrator mentions that nobody can see a single thing. Standing firm in the shadows, the young man shows off his muscular frame and looks ready to strike from the gloom. Glowing with a strange intensity, the hero's eyes pierce through the dark as he prepares for his next big move. Recalling a past lesson, the hero asks his mentor why he must wear a blindfold during their secret training session. Walking behind him, the master explains that eyes are a weak point and must be protected in a real-life struggle. To prepare for the worst, the teacher says that a true warrior needs to be ready even when his vision is totally gone. By using the blindfold, the student learns how to fight without relying on his sight and sharpens his other senses. Training other senses besides sight is the goal for the hero as he keeps his eyes completely covered tonight. Suddenly a heavy strike lands on his face while the trainer tests his reactions during this intense session. Feeling with his ears and skin, the young man realizes that his body is the only tool he has left to survive. Judging the situation by the flow of air, the protagonist listens to every tiny sound echoing in the quiet room. Moving with speed, the fighter throws a powerful punch that cuts through the shadows like a sharp blade. While blocking another hit, the teenager tries to stay calm even though the physical pressure is rising fast. Smiling from the background, the expert notes that the boy is finally starting to grasp the essence of true combat. Breathing heavily, the student admits that he finally understands a little about how to fight without seeing. Opening one eye, the hero shows a very determined look that proves he is ready for the real challenge ahead. Standing in the void, the silhouette of the warrior proves that relying on the flesh is the key to total victory. Visualizing the target, the kid senses that the massive Nagao is only 3 meters away toward the front left. In the middle of a blackout, several inmates wonder when the power will return to the gloomy hallway tonight. Threatening the crowd, the guards warn that anyone who moves will face a very harsh punishment right now. Looking covered in blood, the protagonist thinks this unexpected outage is actually his perfect golden chance. Stepping softly on the tiles, the fighter moves with extreme caution so nobody can hear his approach in the dark. Jen realizes that the giant's biggest weakness is his stamina and he must wear him down to win this struggle. Suddenly, the boy kicks a wooden bucket toward the massive enemy to create a distraction in the dark room. Spotted by the brute, the bully screams that he finally found the target while looking very angry and aggressive. Launching a massive strike, the bald giant smashes the wood into pieces while promising that there is no escape. Moving like a shadow, the protagonist appears right behind the monster, who looks completely shocked by the speed. Launching a precise hit, the young man strikes the back of the neck while the impact echoes through the area. Fuming with rage, the villain complains about the dirty tricks and calls the boy a coward for fighting like that. Demanding a face-to-face brawl, the brute lunges forward once more because he wants to end the student today. Stopping for a second, the attacker shows signs of fatigue as his breathing starts to get very heavy and rough. Watching carefully, the fighter knows that moving too much makes the giant lose his breath and his combat power. Sprinting away, the teenager continues to lure the enemy because he needs the bully to waste all his energy. Touching the cold floor with his bandaged hand, the hero prepares to strike again as the situation turns in his favor. Swinging his arm with everything left, the muscular man throws a desperate punch but misses the target entirely. Looking totally frustrated, the antagonist swears at the air because his body is failing him during this match. Showing a cold and determined gaze, the protagonist prepares for the final blow while the victory is finally close. Standing in the shadows, the young man gets ready for the fight while the dark tiled room remains completely quiet. Suddenly a loud metallic sound echoes through the room while the bald giant looks up with a very surprised expression. Reaching for the handle, the fighter turns on the water and the shower begins to spray everywhere in the dark area. Soaked by the heavy rain, the muscular brute calls the kid a little brat while showing a face full of pure anger. Gritting his teeth, the villain screams that he will never forgive the boy for looking down on his power today. Watching from the side, the other inmates notice that their boss is actually being pushed back during this duel. One of the prisoners wonders how the rookie can even see in the dark while another tries to change his bet quickly. Noticing that the giant is finally getting tired, the protagonist realizes this is his perfect chance to win. Moving like a flash, the hero lands a devastating punch right on the chest and sends red drops flying through the air. Gasping for air, the massive bully spits out red liquid as the impact of the strike hits his internal organs hard. Going low, the young man avoids a counter-attack and prepares to finish the struggle with a very clever move. With a massive amount of force, the protagonist sends the giant flying backward as he loses his balance completely. Crashing onto the floor, the previous leader lies defeated while the hero stands over him in the shadows. Thinking ahead, the fighter suspects a surprise attack and decides to show a fake opening to lure the monster out. Lunging forward with a shout, the brute tries to find the boy in the dark while the battle reaches its final stage. Glaring with a cold gaze, the main character decides to finish the fight because the enemy asked for this mess. Turning around, the massive bald bully prepares himself to face the sudden assault from the angry teenager. Lunging forward with his bandaged hands, the brave kid strikes while his opponent watches him coming with speed. Gritting his teeth, the young fighter focuses all his energy into a single move to win the dangerous battle. Moving like a shadow, the protagonist manages to avoid a heavy blow from the giant while staying very calm. Staring with a dark look behind his hair, the boy prepares his final counter to take down the scary leader. Recalling his training, the mentor asks about the best spot to hit so he can end the struggle instantly. Looking quite confused, the bald man wonders what is happening because he cannot track the boy's fast movements. Pointing to his chest, the teacher explains that hitting the third rib will break 3 bones at the same time. Landing a massive blow, the hero strikes the enemy's torso with a lot of power and perfect precision. Cracking the bone, the impact is so strong that the ribs shatter into pieces just like the master explained. Spitting out some red liquid, the villain feels the intense pain while his body starts to fail him completely. Dropping into a crouch, the winner stays alert under the flickering light while the long fight finally ends.
Heavy breaths escape his lungs as the young warrior stands tall after delivering that insane and bone-crushing blow. Total shock fills the hearts of those 2 inmates who cannot believe their own eyes as they witness a legend being born. Everyone stays silent because the previously invincible giant is now lying face down in a pool of his own red stains. Rumors spread instantly through the crowd as people wonder how a simple rookie managed to pull off such an impossible feat. Sweat runs down his face while the tension in the room reaches a peak as everyone awaits the final conclusion of this duel. One lucky prisoner celebrates his huge profit after risking every single coin on the underdog during this match. Suddenly a guard shouts for everyone to clear the area because the brutal fight has officially reached its final end now. The protagonist prepares to leave as the officer orders him to return to his dark and cold cell immediately. A cold refusal escapes the boy's mouth as his eyes glow with a strange and terrifying intensity that stops time. Low growls echo through the room as the fallen beast starts to move his hand against the cold and blood-stained tiles. Blood drips from his mouth as the villain vows that he will never forgive the student for this public shame. That massive monster rises like a demonic creature and screams that he will tear the young man into tiny pieces. Terror grips the crowd because the beast is somehow still standing despite the massive and lethal damage he took today. Nagao stumbles forward as he looks completely unhinged and the main character prepares for one final clash. Intense rage consumes the giant as he yells for his allies to witness his final and desperate stand against the rookie. Silhouettes of other prisoners watch as Nagao screams at the hero for just standing still in the middle of the dark room. 2 inmates rush toward the scene because they want to witness every single second of this legendary and brutal confrontation. Suddenly a powerful hand stops one of the guys by grabbing his shoulder firmly before he can take another single step forward. A confused prisoner turns around with a shocked face since someone just interrupted his path to the center of the fight. Legendary bosses Naruse and Kojo appear behind the crowd to watch the rookie finish his business in the dark bathhouse. Naruse shows a cold and mysterious smile while asking the inmates where they think they are going in such a huge hurry today. Whispers fill the entire hallway as everyone wonders if these top leaders came specifically to help the young room leader win. One guy thinks about betting his cash on Amamori, but his friend tells him not to be stupid because the odds are insane. Nagao looms over the protagonist like a massive mountain of muscle and admits that the kid has a lot of nerve today. Everyone watches as the bald villain clenches his massive fist to crush the hero right in front of the powerful leaders. Fearless and loud, the giant rushes forward with a roar as he promises to end the boy's life during this final struggle. Lightning fast moves allow the student to throw a quick punch to keep the beast away from his personal space. Sweat runs down his face as Gen realizes he has no stamina left and must finish the duel with one final and perfect strike. Pure rage drives the bald monster to lunge with everything left so he can land a killing blow and destroy the kid. Metal pipes shatter when the heavy fist misses its target as Gen avoids the impact with his last bit of energy. A massive hand reaches out to grab a heavy iron pipe from the wall with a terrifying sound. Our hero stands in the dark and watches the giant weapon being pulled as the air turns cold. Nagao looks like a demon and promises that today will be the final day of the kid's life. That muscular beast swings the heavy metal bar with all his strength and screams for his target to die. Pure speed allows Gen to avoid the lethal strike as the wind brushes his face. Gen realizes that a single hit from such a long weapon would finish his existence instantly. Instead of backing away, the brave teenager decides to close the gap and enter the enemy dangerous range. This fighter lands a solid strike on the ribs as he begins his counterattack against the massive bully. Every step the boy takes shows the results of his training as he weaves through the air like light. Eyes of the monster show total shock because he can hardly believe he missed such a wide target. His opponent refuses to quit and raises his metal pipe again and yells that a simple hit means nothing. Other leaders watch from afar and notice that Nagao is trying to end things with pure raw power. Another massive swing misses its mark as the young fighter stays calm under the intense pressure of the duel. Lungs of the villain burn as he starts to slow down because his heavy injuries are finally catching up. Everything ends with a final blow as Gen launches a strike that connects directly with the giant body. Victory is close as the warrior maintains a low stance to prepare for his final assault on the bully. The massive beast gasps for air and realizes that his stamina is completely gone after this intense exchange. Desperate for a weapon, his massive hand grips a cold metal pipe to keep the boy from getting any closer to him now. Desperation takes over as the brute swings the heavy object and tells the protagonist to just die already. Light glints off the metal as the hero ducks with lightning speed and the weapon cuts through the air. Focus fills his mind because this is the exact moment he needs to end the reign of this North Ward monster forever. A brutal punch lands on the jaw and sends a shockwave through the head of the giant that echoes in the silent room. Blood spatters across the tiled floor as the previously invincible leader finally crashes down in total defeat. This young warrior raises his foot high to make sure this villain never bothers anyone again. Stunned by the scene, the other inmates watch with wide eyes as their legendary boss lies helpless on the ground. Everything turns quiet as the young man shows off his terrifying and muscular frame among the ruins. Shadows cover his face as he tells the monster to repent for every single life he destroyed in this hellish place. One final stomp sends the enemy straight to the depths of hell with a single crushing hit. Covered in red stains, the fallen giant screams in agony as he realizes his era of power is officially over tonight. Those eyes show that the bully finally understands the true meaning of absolute despair. One final strike connects with a thunderous impact as the monster is finally brought down to the cold hard ground. Everyone in the room stays completely silent because they cannot believe a rookie just took out the strongest beast around. Sweat and blood cover his face as the young fighter starts to sway from the sheer exhaustion of the fight. Gravity finally takes over as the student collapses onto the tiles and his mysterious mentor watches from the front. Strong arms catch the boy before he hits the floor as Kojo arrives to support his student after that insane display of power. The protagonist looks up with a weak smile and asks his teacher if he saw the move that finally ended the struggle. Kojo looks down with a rare sense of pride and tells the kid that his performance was actually wonderful to witness. A massive pool of red surrounds the giant as he is totally obliterated and his reign of terror is officially over now. Our heroes leave the crowd in shock as Gen Amamori secures a complete and historic victory today. We go back 24 hours before the massive chaos to see the dark plans brewing in the shadows of the facility. His hand grips a cigarette as the boss decides it is finally time for the legendary Nagao to disappear. Everyone feels troubled by his recent behavior and wonders what the powerful high-ups will say about this mess. That brute thinks winning a few simple fights gives him the right to act like an arrogant king among the prisoners. This smiling snake wants to see the monster and Amamori destroy each other until nothing but dust remains. Darkness will follow if the battle stays even, since the villain plans to cut the power to ensure a win. Total darkness will surely make the duel much more intense for the desperate crowd watching from the sidelines. Nobody must notice their dirty tricks as the boss warns his subordinate to stay quiet during the slaughter. Choosing to fail against a small kid like Amamori makes the massive beast a truly worthless piece of trash. Back in the present, Nagao lies defeated on the cold floor while water continues to wash away his pride and blood. Nagao stares with wide eyes as he realizes that his long reign of terror has finally reached an end. Suddenly the big boss and a guard appear out of the gloom to witness the pathetic state of the former champion. Low whispers fill the air as the leader looks down and says those two words that shatter every bit of hope. Blood runs down his face while the loser begs for one more chance to get it right next time. Absolute rules dictate there is no next time in this hellish place, so the giant must give up right now. Nagao desperately screams that he can still fight even though he is currently covered in his own red stains. A mysterious guard looks down coldly while someone whispers that the giant knows too much and must be removed. The fallen beast cries for help and reminds his boss about all the hard work he did for the sake of the gang. This cold and heartless leader says he is grateful before telling the failure that their time is over. Guards ignore the pleas and order everyone to clear the room because they have important work to finish. One officer tells his partner to leave the mess to the others as they walk away from the defeated monster. These authorities laugh at the situation and move towards the exit while the heavy atmosphere continues to grow. Alone in the center of the silent bathhouse, the previous champion looks like a total mess on the cold floor. Suddenly a pair of clean white shoes approaches the bleeding giant as a new threat emerges from the shadows. The bald man looks up with wide eyes and realizes that he is not actually alone in this gloomy room. Questions arise as Nagao asks if the sudden blackout was actually a dirty trick played by the silver-haired man. This newcomer grins with total arrogance and claims it was just a happy coincidence that he planned himself. Pure rage fills the heart of the fallen boss when he realizes he was being manipulated since the very beginning. The two-tone fighter shows a truly sadistic expression and admits that he wanted to end the giant for a long time. A dark silhouette stands over the victim and calls out to the onlookers before finishing his dark business. Ishida shows a wicked smile and tells the inmates that their long-awaited chance for revenge is finally here. Those hesitant prisoners wonder if the fallen beast might actually find the strength to strike back at them now. One man pushes a companion forward and explains that the boss himself gave them the green light to handle this mess. A prisoner rushes at the helpless giant and delivers a powerful kick directly to the face of the former champion. The master walks away as he looks back to witness the absolute chaos he just unleashed in the entire prison yard. He grins with evil intent and tells them that there is nothing to fear if they all attack as a single group. Dozens of inmates start screaming about their old grudges as they raise their fists to join the brutal assault. This previous monster stays trapped on the floor as he begs for mercy because his era of power is finally over. Total madness erupts as a swarm of angry prisoners surrounds the fallen boss to deliver a collective punishment. Someone stomps a heavy boot on the hand of the defeated bully as a loud scream of agony echoes throughout the room. An inmate stands over his victim and yells at the giant to stop acting tough because he is a pathetic loser now. Another massive punch lands right on the nose of the former leader as more red stains cover the cold tiled floor. That man shouts that his own brother died because of the cruelty this monster displayed to everyone in the past. Ishida stays perfectly calm as the sounds of bones breaking fill the air behind his confident silhouette. He makes a simple gesture to his followers to finish the job as the mob completely consumes the broken villain. The silver-haired snake smiles while ordering his man to report the final result of the brutal fight. Nagao looks like a total mess on the floor as they announce that his disposal is finally complete. A cold goodbye echoes as the subordinate walks away from the man who used to be his leader. Rain continues to pour over the cold metal fences as the atmosphere in the facility remains heavy and dark. Two men walk down the quiet hallway while the director praises how the recent work was truly excellent. That smiling politician promises to keep his word since the upcoming election is far too important for any trouble. Katsumata laughs and tells the guard that he didn't even need to come all this way to explain the situation. Sincerity is the only thing that truly matters to this corrupt official who only cares about his own power. Both figures stop in their tracks as the weight of the secret deal hangs in the quiet air of the prison. With a wicked grin, the director promises that the entire reformatory will soon belong to his loyal companion. This place is just a tool for his personal achievement and a perfect spot to gather massive amounts of dirty funds. Eyes of the director lock onto the officer as he explains that this protection is for everyone's sake. His expression turns dark when he asks if the true meaning of these words is perfectly understood. Everything moves to a private meeting room where some very important people are currently waiting for a conversation. Four powerful figures gather around the table to discuss the future of the prison after the recent chaos changed everything. Tetsu leans back while mocking Kanemoto for being a hypocrite who suddenly hates following the prison regulations. Veins pop on the leader's forehead as he threatens to rip out that annoying tongue if the pink-haired guy speaks again. Taunting his rival with a cocky gesture, Tetsu asks if the big boss actually has the guts to try anything right now. Grinning widely, the provocateur claims that Amamori is currently the true king of the north after stepping over corpses. Kanemoto slams the wooden table while screaming for the other man to stop talking nonsense during their important meeting. Suddenly a massive fist flies through the air and connects with Tetsu's face with enough force to send him spinning back. Blood drips from his mouth as the fighter tells the boss to stop acting tough and go challenge the rookie instead. Lunging forward like a wild animal, the pink-haired guy screams that getting angry at me makes no sense in this mess. Another inmate with a dragon tattoo yells for everyone to calm down before things get way too out of hand today. Everyone freezes as the heavy door swings open with a loud sound and a mysterious figure enters the office area. Standing in the light, the prison director says he is glad to see the boys are doing so well in his facility. With a terrifying look, the authority figure claims that causing trouble shows they clearly do not value their own lives. Shadows stretch across the floor while the tension in the room becomes so thick that nobody dares to breathe or move. Trembling with fear, the scarred subordinate offers a glass of water while trying to stay on the warden's good side now. Sitting down in silence, the powerful man takes the drink while his underling notes that his behavior is very unusual. High tension fills the room as a scarred subordinate mentions that Kanemoto has been in a terrible mood lately. The director apologizes with a smirk as he claims he never intended to scare these dangerous men. Smiles cover the face of the man in the suit as he asks for their forgiveness today. Tensions vanish as the inmates laugh together and promise that there is absolutely no reason for him to worry. Boss leans forward while explaining that he actually has something very important to share with the group right now. Officials from the judicial department are coming to inspect the facility and check every single corner of this place. Management demands that every single leader acts serious and honest during the visit to avoid potential trouble. I stare at the criminals as the man asks if they can handle such a simple task without causing more drama. Suddenly a guard yells that anyone who causes trouble will be shipped off to a real prison instantly. Deep silence follows as the boss warns that life in a maximum security facility is much worse than here. Warnings are given by the guard who says they better stay in line for their own sake today. South District seems fine, but the pink-haired leader asks what will happen with the territory of the North Ward. Since they are currently missing a boss, the crazy guy wonders if that entire section will lose control very soon. Master yells that it is none of their business and claims that Amamori is his and will be the next leader. Furious shouting echoes as the guard yells that they have no right to refuse his direct order today. Don't let your emotions take control because rules are the only thing that matters in this hell. The director smiles like a serpent and suggests that Katsumata should try being a little kinder. He reminds everyone that the kid was sent to the North District specifically to avenge a fallen brother. Caution is necessary since the head of the judicial department might be watching their every single move. This mastermind suggests making Amamori the new boss until the heat from the latest incident finally settles. That red-haired leader sits across the table and confirms the plan is perfect for them. A steaming cup of tea sits on the table as the conversation shifts toward their secret drug production. Katsumata grips his glass so hard while being told to handle the illegal business with extreme care now. Light shines through the metal bars of the ceiling while the atmosphere in the office stays very heavy. Chaos erupts in the hallway as a crowd of curious inmates gathers around the infirmary to see the news. Suddenly the doctor slams the door open and screams for the noisy brats to shut their mouths. Worried about his friend, the long-haired prisoner asks if the new room leader is doing all right inside. That loyal ally glares at the mob and warns that he will beat anyone who makes a sound. Clean white shoes click against the cold floor as a mysterious figure approaches the medical room. Her eyes narrow as she realizes that a very dangerous presence is finally arriving. Inmates whisper about the fall of a king as Nagao loses his title and respect in the blink of an eye. Ishida walks through the hall with a smirk because he has direct orders from the director to find the rookie. Meeting the female doctor in the corridor, the silver-haired snake says the big news will be public very soon. Amamori is officially chosen to replace the fallen monster and become the supreme ruler of the entire North District. Shock waves hit the other prisoners as they realize the hierarchy of this hellish place just changed forever. Some thugs mock the idea of a chubby boss until a loyal follower demands total respect for the new King Amamori. Cheers of "Long live the room leader" echo through the facility as the sunrise marks a brand new era of power. Inside the quiet clinic, the doctor looks at her patient and wonders if he heard the chaotic news about his promotion. Standing by the door, the mysterious mentor admits he expected this outcome and asks what the boy plans to do now. Gen sits in his bed while thinking that the legendary Kanemoto will never accept this sudden change without a fight. The instructor explains that the director needs peace right now because a massive judicial inspection is coming soon. Looking confused, the young fighter asks about these mysterious officials who hold so much power over the facility. These inspectors check every single corner of the reformatory to ensure the students are actually learning the rules. Leaders are expected to maintain total order and prevent any messy problems from reaching the ears of the high officials. Everything boils down to the director's third election, as any scandal would instantly destroy his dreams of political power. Kojo claims that losing one boss is usually fine, but right now they need a true leader for the entire prison. Amamori stares with wide eyes and wonders how his mysterious teacher manages to know so many dark secrets. Tension fills the infirmary as the two fighters face each other since the weight of the truth hangs in the air. The doctor decides to leave the room and orders the muscular mentor to finally offer a proper apology to the kid. Deeply ashamed, the instructor admits his mistakes and says he is truly sorry for his past actions. Confession follows as the man admits he only trained the student to use him as a tool to expose this evil facility. Everything gets even more intense as the veteran prepares to reveal his real identity for the very first time. Beyond being a gang leader, the mysterious warrior reveals that he is actually an undercover narcotics officer. This secret agent brushes his hair back and shows a professional look that proves his dangerous reputation. Stunned by the massive revelation, the young protagonist can hardly believe the person he trusted is a policeman. Sunlight hits the ceiling as Kojo starts to reveal his dark past about losing his parents and living with his sister. 10-year-old kid begged a mysterious fighter to teach him how to survive the harsh streets and protect his only family. That generous benefactor fed the hungry boy and provided a warm home where he could finally feel some sense of safety. This young student learned that his savior was actually the second in command of the ruthless Kuroyama group. Inside the infirmary, the man explains that his mentor was brutally finished after trying to leave the evil organization. Cruel methods like human trafficking and illegal trade made the old man unhappy, so the group finished him without mercy. Dark containers filled with innocent people prove that this group is involved in the most disgusting crimes imaginable. He clenches his hands while revealing that seeking justice for those lost lives is the only reason he came to this place. Shocked by the truth, the young student asks if the entire mission is actually centered around this dangerous reformatory. Evil thugs drugged his best friend and forced him to attack before the poor guy eventually decided to take his own life. Hokuto Shindo is the monster who killed his benefactor and friend after they discovered the drugs were coming from here. Many loyal helpers joined the cause when the hero started the Kojo group to take down the people who destroyed him. Now he acts as a narcotics officer, infiltrating this place to hunt down every single criminal from within the walls. Government officials are helping him search for evidence to destroy the reformatory and the mafia all at the same time. Heavy guilt weighs on his heart as the master apologizes and promises that Naruse will provide protection from now on. Everything feels totally wrong as the young man realizes that the person he trusted most was hiding a massive secret. Despair hits him hard as the hero wonders if his entire journey was just a lie made up by a clever manipulator. Suddenly he stands up and screams that being treated like a stranger hurts more than any physical beating in this hell. Pure rage fills his heart, but he admits that without his mentor he would be dead just like his poor friend Masaki. Silence falls over the room as the undercover officer prepares to reveal the true reason behind the latest tragedy. Flashbacks show the doctor finding a lethal amount of illegal substances inside the body of the fallen prisoner. Dark shadows cover his face and he explains that Nagao is not the true monster responsible for this specific crime. Behind the scenes, a mysterious man named Hokuto Shindo is the real mastermind in charge of the drug production. Outside the walls, a light breeze moves through the trees and the atmosphere becomes even more tense and gloomy. Two random inmates chat in the yard about who will finally take the open position of the room leader today. These guys mock the current situation because they only get leftovers since their boss doesn't smoke anymore. Suddenly a cold voice interrupts the fun and demands to know who gave them permission to sit on that bench. This thug looks very annoyed and claims that the new boss Amamori is the one backing their group right now. Another prisoner starts laughing like a total idiot at the idea of a hated rookie becoming a supreme leader. Impact hits his jaw instantly as a massive warrior appears and asks if they also have a problem with his presence. Gossip about the new king spreads like wildfire through the yard as the inmates watch the top dogs gather in silence. 3 days before the chaos erupted, the young fighter sat in his hospital bed promising to pay back every single debt. Kojo tries to protect the kid from the dark truth, but Gen knows that escaping the monster Kanemoto is totally impossible. Determination burns in his eyes as he declares that his only path is to become a legend that makes everyone tremble. The undercover officer hides a smirk as he watches the boys resolve and finds a person worth his time today. Beyond those cold metal bars, a sense of reliability starts to grow as the night settles over the quiet facility walls. Everything changes inside the leader's private quarters, where the true hierarchy of this hellish place is about to be tested. The rookie stands tall before the most dangerous men even when threatened with a quick and brutal ending. The protagonist claims with a confident smile that a true ruler would never resort to such petty and small tactics. Naruse admits the kid has learned to talk big and wonders how a weak brat transformed into such a fierce warrior. Survival is impossible for those who only cry, and the young man makes sure the leader understands his new mindset clearly. The hero explains a plan for a temporary truce since they both need status to survive the storm coming soon. Silence fills the air as the tattooed boss considers the offer and the silver-haired snake watches from the shadows. Decisions are made behind closed doors as the heavy metal entrance marks the beginning of a very dangerous alliance today. The powerful boss lights a cigarette and asks his subordinate for an honest opinion about the rookie's growth. Ishida ponders the situation and notes that this new kid might bring some benefits despite some serious concerns. Katsumata releases a cloud of smoke and looks curious after hearing about the rise of the rookie in the North District. This silver-haired snake admits that Amamori climbed from the bottom, and that makes him very popular with the other inmates. Shadows loom over the hero as Ishida warns that the boy won't obey orders easily since Kojo is currently backing him up. The tattooed boss clenches his cigarette and realizes that Kojo is impossible to read after rejecting many invitations. Both men agree to let the protagonist take over Nagao's work as long as he stays far away from their illegal drug business. A wicked smile appears on the face of the strategist, who believes the young fighter is nothing more than a simple puppet. Sunlight hits the prison yard where the top leaders gather to address the massive crowd of nervous students today. Standing tall, the boss shouts that Nagao was defeated and officially names Amamori as the new ruler of the North Ward. The powerful man turns his head with a smirk and invites the young champion to say a few words to his new followers. Whispers of fear travel through the crowd as the inmates worry if their new leader will seek revenge for their past behavior. Amamori raises his voice and tells everyone to forget the past since he intends to rule differently from this day on. Bullying is strictly forbidden as long as people follow the rules according to the direct order of the new supreme leader. Determination shines in his eyes as the young man screams that his main goal is to protect every single person in the ward. Loud cheers erupt from the inmates who celebrate their new boss while shouting that Amamori is truly the best leader ever. Inmates cheer loudly and vow to follow the new king of the north forever as he walks through the yard with total confidence. Suddenly a heavy hand slams against the table and a bottle of liquor spills across the wooden surface. Furious screams erupt as the young man asks how a total weakling like Gen managed to become a legendary boss. A muscular brother sits across the room and warns that the reformatory is a completely different world from high school. Angry words fly as the younger sibling shouts that his partner promised to make the hero suffer through a nightmare. Frustration boils over when the teenager claims that his relative only cares about himself and ignores the current mess. Loud screams echo as the boy reminds him that their mother worked hard to lock the protagonist away in this hell. The tattooed leader stands up with a cold gaze and explains that a single wrong move would actually finish them for good. This criminal declares that some tasks are simply impossible to achieve at this moment despite the loud yelling. Big Brother promises not to abandon his family as long as they stay patient and quiet during this important time. A terrifying expression appears on the boss as he warns that even their mother might abandon him if he keeps complaining. Shadows cover the boy as he decides to handle the situation alone since he is tired of waiting for help from others. Hatred fills the villain as he vows to hurt the people important to Jen since he cannot touch the hero directly now. Small signs on the door mark the entrance to the visiting room where families finally reunite after a long time apart. The guard warns that fighting will lead to solitary and Jen realizes that bosses see their moms without any paperwork. A prison guard leads the way through the gloomy hallways while the young hero follows closely behind. They finally reach the sign for the private visitation room where secrets are about to be revealed. The officer opens the door and shouts for the prisoner to enter immediately without wasting any more time. Anticipation fills his heart as the boy thinks about seeing his mother for the first time in ages. Jen steps inside with a warm smile and apologizes for being late to the person waiting in the shadows. Outside at the main gate, a guard turns around after hearing a desperate voice calling out from the street. That tired woman pants heavily after arriving at the entrance to catch a glimpse of her beloved son. She holds a small package tight while begging to see her child because her heart is aching so much. The guard checks the schedule on his clipboard to see if the visit is actually authorized today. Confusion marks his face when he notices a strange detail on the official list for the day. Coldly, the man explains that only one visitor is allowed and someone has already gone inside to meet him. This officer tells her to return next time and begins to close the heavy metal gate on the poor lady. Desperation takes over as she pleads for just 1 second since she misses her boy so much. She looks through the iron bars and asks for the name of the person currently sitting with her son. His hand touches his chin while he remembers checking the visitation log just a few minutes ago. A box filled with cold sausages sits on the table as a cruel reminder of a friend who is no longer here. Shock washes over Jen as he stares at the gift that proves his enemies know exactly how to hurt his soul. Behind the thick security glass, a mysterious man in a hoodie shows a truly demonic and twisted smile. They both stare at each other through the glass as the silence in the room gets super awkward and heavy. The hooded creep starts tapping on the glass and his fingers move like he is playing some kind of sick game. Jen keeps his head down because the fire in his eyes is probably enough to burn the whole place down. Our hero slowly reaches for the phone to hear the voice of the monster who ruined his entire life. A chilling greeting travels through the line as the criminal calls the boy his favorite toy after so long. This psychopath whispers the name of his prey with a voice that sounds like he is enjoying every second. Flashbacks show a wealthy mansion where this villain grew up believing he was a special god among humans. Powerful parents and an unbeatable brother ensured that every single crime he committed was forgiven. Money and influence allowed him to destroy others for fun since nobody ever dared to stop his cruel games. This insane privilege followed him into his adult years where he kept doing whatever he wanted for fun. The man lived like a supreme deity and thought his status made him completely invincible in this society. Everything shattered into pieces when one fearless idiot decided to punch the fake god right in his face. Inside a hospital room, a worried mother begs the surgeon to fix her son's face regardless of the high cost for the procedure. Looking at his reflection, the young boy realizes that even a complex surgery will never make his face look natural again. Walking through a sea of shadows, the victim feels like a total monster because everyone would judge a person without a nose. Trapped inside his darkroom, the teenager mourns his lost future as the dreams he once had vanish into thin air forever. Cold eyes show a deep level of hatred as the boy whispers that his old existence is finally over and a new demon is born. Pointing the blame toward his enemy, the kid screams that everything is the fault of the person named Jen Amamori. Holding the prison phone, the protagonist shows a much tougher appearance after surviving the brutal hell of the reformatory. Speaking with a calm voice, the hero explains that he already faced his sentence and things should be considered even now. Across the glass, a hooded figure stares back with pure malice while the main character remains unfazed by the intense pressure. That angry visitor claims that Jen would be dead already if his older brother had actually been serious during their fight. Since the sibling refuses to finish the job, the boy decides to take matters into his own hands with his extra free time. Spinning a pair of chopsticks, the antagonist reveals that a very dark and twisted plan suddenly came to his mind recently. Leaning against the glass, the villain mentions the sweet and spicy fried mochi that the protagonist's mother used to cook. Grinning like a total psychopath, the boy stabs the snack and claims that the flavor was actually beyond amazing today. Jen looks completely horrified as he screams into the receiver to find out what that monster did to his innocent mother. A mysterious hooded figure stands behind the glass and mocks our hero about being lonely for his mother lately. This villain pulls out a smartphone and tells the boy to watch the footage he recorded very carefully right now. His eyes lock onto the screen as the monster mentions that the video features his beloved parent in a bad way. Horrified, he sees his poor mother on the ground as someone uses a professional camera to film her deep suffering. That psychopath laughs and says she had guts, but kicking her didn't feel good since she was way too skinny. Cruel images show several men attacking the helpless woman and dragging her across the pavement without any mercy. Dark veins pop around his face as the protagonist whispers that he will never forgive this insane level of disrespect. He unleashes a massive punch and strikes the thick glass partition with a force that echoes through the entire room. Shards of glass fly everywhere when the barrier shatters and the hero screams the name of his enemy Kanemato out loud. The villain watches the chaos with a wicked grin and shows a terrifying face through the cracks of the broken window. Blood drips from his knuckles as the warrior vows to finish the person who dared to touch his family today.